He's got the first down.
WBC-FM and HD Boston 98.5. The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Essential Sports Hub headline. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
Last night, government regulators have approved that ESPN's billion-dollar blockbuster acquisition of multiple NFL media assets, and the two sides are close to the agreement late Saturday, as The Athletic reported last night. As a part of the agreement, the NFL will take 10% ownership stake in ESPN. ESPN will own and operate NFL Network, become the official home of fantasy football by merging the NFL's product with its own, and have linear rights to the Red Zone channel. And the Celtics are in action this afternoon. They'll face the Milwaukee Bucks at 3:30 p.m. at the Garden. Grady and Max will have pregame coverage at 3 p.m. on the Celtics radio network. And the Bruins are in Tampa Bay for the NHL Stadium Series. They'll face the Lightning at Raymond James Stadium. Ryan Johnson and Bob Beers will have pregame coverage starting at 6 p.m. on the Bruins radio network. Sports Up headlines are brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-thru oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, the official oil change of busy people. I'm Jake Seymour for Boston's Home for Sports 98.5, the Sports Hub. Next update at 9 a.m.
For a deep three, violent two-hand slam. Wow.
98.5, the Sports Hub. This is Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle. The show that's all Patriots, all football, all year long. The clutch wins, the tough losses, and the game-changing plays. This is the show that has it all covered. Sunday Kickoff, brought to you in part by Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka. Now, here are Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle.
Hello and good morning. Welcome in to 98.5 the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. I'm Jake Seymour filling in today for Alex Barth, who's currently on a plane heading to San Francisco for Super Bowl 60 between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. Cerrone Battle's joining us today, this morning. Cerrone, how you doing today?
Good morning, man. How you doing? How about yourself?
Doing good, Cerrone. It's exciting. Got football to talk about, Patriots in the Super Bowl. Who would have thought about this starting back in September, that we would have Super Bowl conversations about the New England Patriots in February?
Yeah, I think it's probably a mutual feeling between Patriots fans and Seahawks fans. I don't think either team thought expected their team to be in this situation right now. But hey, I mean, Seattle took a lot of heat with the Sam Darnold contract and all that stuff. But look how it turned out for them. So I mean, I think both fan bases are pretty excited, and I think it's still a kind of an unbelievable feeling for Patriot fans. I think everybody's still kind of in shock with this one.
Yeah, absolutely, Cerrone. And it's been one of the better storylines for the football. I feel like you got the Patriots coming back from their dynasty, Sam Darnold having this mid-career resurgence, you could say, coming back. But I wanted to start off today with, we'll get to the game later on, but I wanted to start today with Bill Belichick missing the Hall of Fame, because even though the Patriots in the Super Bowl, this feels like the one story that has taken over the airwaves, taken over the narrative, because it was so important, it feels like, for Belichick. First ballot Hall of Fame. You thought that was a lock right now. And I guess I just want to start there, Cerrone, to get your initial reactions on Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think it was shocking at first, but then it kind of confirmed a lot of things and a lot of stuff that people were feeling, Patriot fans especially, with not just Bill Belichick, but the fact that this team won 6 Super Bowls under him in the past 20 years, and only 2 players have been put in the Hall of Fame. If you go back and look at any dynasty, teams that have won 2, or some teams just won 1, they've had more than a handful of those players make it to the Hall of Fame, because it was usually based on winning and not just flat out numbers. Did you win? The object of the game is to win. And to only have 2 Hall of Famers in over a 20-year stretch of this dominance is insane. I mean, look how many players are in from the Buffalo Bills. They never even won 1. Marv Levy's in. He didn't win the Super Bowl. He got to him, but he kept losing. But it kind of confirmed how people were feeling, and it kind of vindicated a lot of people that were saying it was kind of a conspiracy against the Patriots. And here you have Bill Belichick go up there, and they didn't even vote him in. So he'll get it eventually. We'll eventually get Tom Brady or Gronk, but I think that's probably where they're going to cap it. And it's unfortunate, because I think this team deserves a lot of players and a lot of pieces that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. That was the most concerning part to me looking at this, is the fact that the Hall of Fame did not put Belichick in its first ballot. Was in its right outrageous, like in its own right. But the idea that they're going to hold maybe Spygate, I know Deflategate, that was more on Brady, but they're going to hold some of these Cheney scandals against them potentially. And we're sitting here talking about Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer. There are plenty of guys who are in the Hall of Fame right now who are first ballot Hall of Famers that I think if you looked at and you said, would you rather have this guy or coach or Bill Belichick? Or would you have this player or Bill Belichick? You'd probably land on Bill Belichick more times than you wouldn't. So that to me was the most surprising part right out of the gate. And the other part where my mind immediately jumped to was the fact, well, this is now the second person, a part of the Patriots dynasty, that's been left off, you could say. Robert Kraft, he's not in the Hall of Fame right now. He definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt in my mind that Robert Kraft is a Hall of Fame NFL owner. Jerry Jones is in the Hall of Fame. If he's in the Hall of Fame, it feels like Robert Kraft is right in line to get that award as well. But if Belichick now is getting it, Robert Kraft has already been pushed aside. Does that mean Tom Brady's not a first ballot Hall of Famer?
They could use it against him if they're saying that Spygate played a role in keeping Kraft or Belichick out. They absolutely could say, Tom Brady, same thing. He benefited from a situation that landed him in federal court and all this other nonsense. Even though we know it's look, I joke all the time that I wouldn't even have told anybody that somebody beat me with a flat football, but they tried to say it was an advantage and. They might hold it against him, but I think with Tom Brady, I think the outcry might even be louder if he doesn't get in first ballot because of the numbers, because of the Super Bowls, because he went to another organization and was dominant there, not only winning but throwing for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns in one of the seasons he was in Tampa, just being a dominant player through his 40s. I think people will really. They'd really be on their way to speak with some of these people if they were to keep Tom Brady out of first ballot. Look, I said this before, if you combine Pat Mahomes and Joe Montana's careers, wins, yards, stats, everything, they still don't catch Tom Brady, and that's insane. So to leave somebody off who's that dominant at the most important position, probably in professional sports, would be complete outrage if they did anything like that.
I'm 100% in agreement with you. But the fact that they've already done this to Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick, to me, is a signal that they're going to do it again. Now, maybe this time will be a little bit different because the outrage from the public has been so grand and so large that they almost feel like they have to put Brady in, because if they get Tom Brady off as the first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't know, Twitter might crash. There might be potential major issues with leaving Tom Brady off as a first ballot Hall of Famer. So for me, it feels like it's almost it's crazy that we are even having this discussion, because of course it's Tom Brady. We call him the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT, the best quarterback to play the game. And we're sitting here saying, is Tom Brady a first ballot Hall of Famer? Could he get in his first try? And that to me just signals that there's some major things wrong about the Hall of Fame voting process. I know we'll get into that a little bit later. We had one voter come out and say why he didn't vote for Belichick, and maybe that was partially why. But still, Tom Brady is in a position where, based on the precedent that's been set with Robert Kraft and especially Bill Belichick, where he might not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And it's just hard for me, in the aftermath of just being shocked and surprised and honestly disappointed with the Pro Football Hall of Fame voting committee that Belichick didn't get in. It's just hard not to sit here and go back to Tom Brady and think about what he's done. And he was vehemently disagreed with Belichick not getting in. He thought he should have been in because, he's a smart person. He's an intelligent person. I think anyone would have thought that as well. So sitting here today and February 1st, we're talking about Bill Belichick. And I think it's also a detriment as well to what the Patriots have done this season, because we're sitting here talking about Belichick not being in the Hall of Fame, where the Patriots are getting on a flight today to go to San Francisco to play in the Super Bowl. Like, that is crazy, Cerrone.
Yeah, it is wild. I mean, it's where we've come from the Belichick this time, a couple of years ago, Belichick, being let go by the team, mutual agreement, whatever, parting ways, whatever you want to call it. Where we were there just 2 years ago, and nobody would have thought this team would be where they are now. I mean, the rebuild, how long it would take. There was more confidence in UNC making the NCAA playoffs than it was with the Patriots making the NFL playoffs. We believe that much in Bill Belichick and what he was going to do in his turnaround there. And this Patriot team, no one saw this coming. I mean, we all saw the schedule. We saw that, okay, the schedule, they might get 7-8 wins out of that. That's what people are looking at. And here we are, a team that won 9 games on the road alone. It's amazing turnaround. It's been an amazing I'm gonna say turnaround for Belichick, but it's been a wild 3 or 4 years for Bill Belichick. A lot of crazy things have happened with him, and it's unfortunate that it's unfortunate that this part of his career is taking such a beating because of his dominance during his prime, and they're holding so many different things against him, and it's I kind of feel bad for the guy, but I mean, it is what it is. He's gonna get in, but keeping him from being first ballot, I think, is cold, slow. But I'm glad that the Patriots are kind of circling the wagons with Belichick. The fans, players, the NFL, even head coaches, Jimmy Johnson, a lot of ex-players, Kurt Warner, guys who played against him, Terrell Owens, they were all saying, this is a sham. It's sad that they did that to him like this. But he will get in, and I hope he's really celebrating. And it would be cool, for him to get in and then go in with other Patriots as well and kind of give them all their flowers while you have a chance to.
That's been also surprising to me, is the fact that the general consensus, especially in the national media, is that Belichick should be in, and that this would have been such an easy time for people to gang up on Belichick and say, yeah, listen, he's not first ballot Hall of Famer. You can't cheat your way into the Hall of Fame, and he deserved not to get in. But we haven't seen that from anybody. Locally, I wouldn't expect that, but nationally, I thought there'd be at least a few talking pundits who would sit there and make that case, but we haven't seen that. And I saw from Florio this morning in Pro Football Talk, there was a report in the Pittsburgh Gazette talking about Belichick falling just one vote shy of the Hall of Fame. You need 40 of the 50 to be elected. That's 80%. And he reportedly had 39 votes in that. So that means that at least one of the 4 candidates who were part of that non-player committee got voted in. So do we think Robert Kraft, did he finally get the cusp? And how much maybe would Robert Kraft getting in over Belichick, is that kind of like a little punch to Belichick on his way out?
Well, it might be, but look, I think Kraft should be in. I think he should be in. He's I would say, I don't know how you can rank owners, but I don't know how many, is there any other owners that have more success than Robert Kraft? I think he should be in. He should be a first ballot guy for an owner. He's just been, since he took over the team, he's in a situation now where he's in a Super Bowl with 3 different head coaches, 3 different starting quarterbacks, and 3 different generations. And we haven't seen the Jerry Jones, anybody else even go back. And it's crazy, but I think Kraft should be in. And look, with them going to the Super Bowl this weekend, and you might as well just give him his gold jacket now. It's like he's back in it again. He's immediately turned right back around. The biggest gap I think they've had without winning being in the Super Bowl is 6 years or something like that, which is insane since he's taken over the team. And he is a Hall of Fame owner, and he should be in. And I would love to see them both go in together. I think that would be great, but unfortunately, they're not going to do that. It's kind of like, we're not going to use the Hall of Fame as a way to celebrate the Patriots, the Hall of Fame ceremony to celebrate the Patriots organization. So we're going to put one guy in here, and another guy over here, kind of separate it. And I think that's kind of cold, but I think that's what they're doing.
That's, to me, is the most impressive part about this whole Robert Kraft legacy, the fact that he's gotten it so many times now with 3 different coaches, 3 different starting quarterbacks. Like, I'm 23 years old. I was born December 2002, and this will be the 10th time I've seen the Patriots go to the Super Bowl. 10 times in my lifetime, the Patriots have at least played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's never been done before. And there's been stuff that predated that. In '96, they got there with Robert Kraft when he bought the team. And there's been so many good storylines with the Patriots. They were the team that everyone wanted to hate on. They were the team that everyone disliked. And we're sitting here talking about Robert Kraft not getting in. To me, I think you can't look at any of this situation without being outraged with the Pro Football Committee and frankly embarrassed for them as well, because these are guys who would have been no-brainer first ballot Hall of Famers. When Robert Kraft didn't get in, you can almost excuse it, saying, okay, well, he's an owner. He's still part of the team. Maybe the committee just waiting for him to officially pass the torch to Jonathan Kraft and kind of go on with it. Okay, fine, maybe. But Belichick's not coaching in the NFL anymore. Tom Brady's not playing in the NFL anymore. So there's no reason why those guys should not be first ballot Hall of Famers. I don't get it, and it's frankly embarrassing. But
yeah, I'll just say real quick before we hit the break, I think the reason that all of this is happening and it goes back to the beginning with the hate from the beginning, is the Patriots aren't a blue blood franchise. If this was the Steelers, if this was the Cowboys, if this was Washington, even the Bears or one of those type franchises, they could have been caught Spygate 4 times over. They'd still be in the Hall of Fame. And I think it's kind of because they're not the Packers. They weren't supposed to be up there with the elite, blue blood franchises. And they kind of hold that against them. Like, you weren't supposed to do this to the rest of us. And we're going to treat you like a tier down franchise. We're never going to put you up on the higher level of some of these other franchises. I think they even look at somebody like the Ravens as being above them, which is kind of cold. But I think it's because of the franchise. If this was the Dallas Cowboys and they did all this winning, there'd be 20 players in the Hall of Fame by now from that run, easily. But, I mean, it's the Patriots, and they're going to hold that against them.
Absolutely. If you want to weigh in on Belichick being snubbed from the Hall of Fame, come hear your opinion. 617-779-0985. We'll have much more on Belichick missing the Hall of Fame, and we'll start talking about some football, Cerrone, right after this on Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
Big on flavor, big on...
Super Bowl. This is just when my flight was, no way to avoid it. Feel like that's a legitimate reason, but I did want to leave you with something. I know you're in good hands with Jake and Cerrone, and I'll be back next week. We'll get obviously a ton into this Super Bowl matchup, Super Bowl 60. Patriots, Seahawks have reactions from everything out in San Francisco during the week. But one of the big stories of this week that we may not get to, at least in full, is Bill Belichick being snubbed by the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And as you know, if you're a longtime listener to the show, that is something that we talk a lot about. We dive into the Hall of Fame classes and who gets in and who doesn't get in. So I wanted to touch on this one. I didn't want to leave this one undiscussed. And I know Jake and Cerrone will have more on this during the show, but it's just another level. I feel like every couple years when the Hall of Fame class gets announced, there's some sort of snub that I feel like is a new low that can't be touched. And perfect example, Adam Vinatieri last year. He is the greatest kicker of all time. And I know the Hall weights positional value. I know some people like that the Hall does that. But at the end of the day, like, kicker's a position, and kicking isn't easy. As we saw last week, especially in the snow, this is the guy that has some of the biggest kicks in the history of the sport, 2+ decades in the league, and is the league's all-time leading scorer. If he can't get in, if he's not a Hall of Famer, who is? So I didn't think they could sink any lower than that until earlier this week when we find out that Bill Belichick will not get in on the first ballot. And I understand some voters have come out and talked about it being the fall of the process and the way the voting is structured. And I think the process does need some fixing, to be fair. And hopefully that comes from this. Maybe that's a silver lining from this. But it's not an excuse. Because at the end of the day, you're choosing between 5 options. Who are the most deserving? Well, this guy might not get in if we don't vote for him now. Well, then he's probably not worth getting in. Part of what I used to like about the Pro Football Hall of Fame was it had a high bar. Unlike basketball, where everybody gets in, and baseball, or everybody who didn't take steroids gets in. The Football Hall of Fame was a little more limited, which is a good thing, which is what a Hall of Fame should be. But you can't go too far that people like Adam Vinatieri and now Bill Belichick are not getting in. There's something I've come back to a couple times, and this was the case with Vinatieri. I remember thinking this with Ty Law, going back when he had to wait, and Seymour, and I know what I saw, and we know what we saw when we watched Bill Belichick coach a football game for close to 2 decades here in New England. We know what we saw. We saw Hall of Fame caliber coaching. And yes, the bar should be high to get in the Hall of Fame. But if it's so high that people like Belichick aren't getting in, that's the fault of the process, not the fault of Belichick. It's the fault of the process, not the fault of Vinatieri. And I know this is a Patriots show, but this is more than a Patriots problem. Terrell Owens having to wait 3 years when Marvin Harrison got in on the first ballot in the same general frame of time. I'll even go back to last year, Luke Kuechly. I know Luke Kuechly only had a short career relative to some. He was an All-Pro every year. And again, I know what I saw when I saw Luke Kuechly play the game. And to not have some of those guys in again felt disqualifying enough. And now with Belichick, I mean, are we 100% sure about Brady in a couple years that he's going to get in first ballot? I only say that half kidding now. You might have reacted last week to me saying that, oh, come on, you're being dramatic. How's Tom Brady not going to get in the Hall of Fame? If I said the same thing about Belichick, you'd be saying the same thing to me, and here we are. And it's sad because some people have used the term embarrassing. That's the term I keep using keep hearing used for the committee, and it is embarrassing. I take it a step further, though. It's disqualifying because what the Hall is a museum, and it's records, and it's the history of the game. You hear people a lot of times use that idiom to talk about, shouldn't this guy be in the Hall of Fame? Well, can you tell the history of the league? Can you tell the history of the sport without him? There might be nobody that would be more omitted from a telling of the history of football, the pro football, than Bill Belichick. I don't think anybody fits that description more than Bill Belichick. So, and yeah, he'll probably get in next year. He still won't have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, and that matters because even within the Hall of Fame, there's levels to it. There's being a unanimous Hall of Famer, which is super rare. And Belichick probably should have been, but, one or two people hold out, fine. You can't please everybody. First ballot Hall of Famer is really supposed to be the thing that sets the greats of the greats of the greats aside. And Belichick should have had that honor. And no matter what happens now, he won't. And especially for somebody who cares so much about the history of the game, it's sad. Again, I look at the Hall differently. I view it as disqualifying, and even when he gets in, there'll be an asterisk, and it's a mark that should stand with the Hall and especially with this voting committee for a long time, beyond when Belichick gets in. Certainly at least until things change, and I'm talking about both the voting process and, if need be, some or all of the voters themselves. So it's another Hall of Fame letdown. When we started doing the show a couple years ago, the guy I'd campaigned for every year was Rodney Harrison. And don't get me wrong, Rodney Harrison should absolutely be in. But I had hoped that we would stop talking about Rodney Harrison because he'd finally get in, and now I'd turn my attention to, say, Matthew Slater, who has a good case, but the Hall has not handled well the age of specialization in the NFL. Devin Hester had to wait a year to get in, so we'll fight that battle when it comes. But I thought we'd move on from Harrison because he got in, not because he'd get buried as the biggest snub by first Adam Vinatieri and then Bill Belichick. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it. I have a column up if you want more too on 985thesportshub.com that you can check out that has some more thoughts on this. And I'll be back next week. We'll talk about the class that ultimately does get in. And of course, plenty of lead up to Super Bowl 60. I'll have a recap of everything I've seen out in San Francisco. As you're hearing this, I'm probably still in the air. I'm probably not there yet, but we have a ton coming for you on 985, 985thesportshub.com this week. So be sure to stay tuned in for that. And stay tuned in here for the rest of Sunday Kickoff. I know you're in good hands with Jake and Cerrone. Enjoy the rest of the show, everybody. I can't wait to talk to you Monday, 6 o'clock. Joe and I will have the big game preview, and then obviously next week again for Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. So thanks again to Jake and Cerrone for letting me cut in, even when I'm technically not supposed to be on the show. Jake, I'll toss it back to you.
Thanks, Barth. Cerrone, I think a lot of what Barth said there is 100% correct. Sound logic. And I actually appreciate the fact that he took it a step further to say it was disqualifying of the committee. Not just embarrassing. No. You guys are disqualified from this because he's 100% right. It's frankly incomprehensible how Belichick did not get in on his first try.
Yeah, it's bad, and it's like you said, like we've all been saying, like Alex just said in that clip. What is this going to do for the rest of the players if he's not first ballot? What is this going to do for other guys? Like I said, Adam Vinatieri he's the greatest player at his position. He should be in, and I think there's other guys, if I'm not mistaken, players like, I know people are going to scream like this dude's not a Hall of Famer. Willie McGinnis is I think he's got the all-time playoff leader in sacks, plus 3 Super Bowls. And you say that might be extreme. Career sacks, Charles Haley, I think, only has like 10 more than Willie McGinnis. And nobody debates if Charles Haley should be in the Hall of Fame. But he played alongside of great players and all those things. Willie McGinnis in the playoffs has been the best edge rusher of all time. He's got the most sacks, I believe, in playoff history. He's got 3 Super Bowls. If Willie McGinnis was playing for the Niners, the Dallas Cowboys, or the Pittsburgh Steelers, he would be in based on his postseason resume alone. And with a lot of these Patriot players, their postseason resumes are the greatest in the history of the sport. And when you don't put them in, that means you devalued winning. You've taken winning off the board. And playing in big moments and championship games, you've taken all that off the board. Now you're saying, well, with everybody else is winning, but with the Patriots, it's all about regular season stats. And it's weird, but they're finding different reasons to keep guys out. And Rodney Harrison, I've been a big supporter of Rodney Harrison getting the Hall of Fame. Any player with more than 30 interceptions and 30 sacks and, with a handful of Super Bowls should be in the Hall of Fame. But I think they're going to play games with all these Patriot players, and it's pretty sad to see. They might even keep Gronk out, a year. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the problem. It opens the can of worms for, if you kept the head coach who was a part of and set up all the winning, then every player has to be, going off the precedent that you set as the Pro Football Hall of Fame voting committee, that the other players have to sit out at least a season, if not more, because not every player part of that team, although a lot of those players were great, they're not all first ballot Hall of Famers. We all know that. So there's going to be already the waiting process for some of those guys. And one thing that I'm actually appreciative that's coming out is we had a Hall of Fame voter come out and say, yes, raise my hand. I did not vote for Bill Belichick to get into the Hall of Fame. Vahe Gregorian, he's a columnist for the Kansas City Star. He came out and explained his reasoning for why he didn't vote for Belichick or Kraft. He said he actually didn't vote against either one of those guys. Instead, he voted for the three senior candidates, Ken Anderson, Roger Craig, and Elsie Greenwood. And his reasoning was the fact that the voting process for the Hall of Fame is once guys are on the list and they get approved to the committee, they might not get a second chance to be enshrined into the Hall of Fame. So because of that, his rationale, I suppose, from reading from his column, is that Belichick is a Hall of Famer. In fact, he leads off with it saying that Belichick should be in the Hall of Fame, and that he will be again presented to the committee and he will vote on him at another time, but he wanted to try and vote for the guys who might not get an opportunity to get in. And that, to me, that just makes the criteria for the Pro Football Hall of Fame even more ludicrous. Yeah. You're either in the Hall of Fame or you're not, which is also why I have a problem with first ballot. If you're not good enough to get into the Hall of Fame, if I see your name and I'll say, yes, he's a Hall of Famer, then after maybe reading up and researching and having the presentations that some of these guys give off, if I can't just look at this player or this coach or this executive, read his accolades and say, yes, that guy's a Hall of Famer, guess what? I'm sorry, you don't belong in the Hall of Fame. It's just how it is. So the fact that the committee puts voters in these situations where they have to choose which people they should vote for based on if they will get back there and have this rationale behind it outside of if they deserve it is, frankly, I really don't understand it. It makes no sense. You either get voted in and you're a Hall of Famer or you don't. It should be that plain and simple. If we have some classes where the Hall of Fame class is 10 or 15 people and others where it's only 2, then so be it. I don't care. This should not be a reason why you don't vote for Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, or anybody else should be in the Hall of Fame. Could you imagine they did this like Peyton Manning? Yeah, Peyton Manning, you're going to have to sit out a little bit because we have some of the guys we got to get into the Hall of Fame first. Even though you're great and you should be in the Hall of Fame, you're going to have to sit off for a little bit. Or Jerry Jones, people would still be outraged by it. It just doesn't make sense.
And well, once you said the writer was from Kansas City, you didn't have to say anything else. You knew what the deal was. It'd be the same. Imagine the outcry in Kansas City if Pat Mahomes didn't get first ballot Hall of Fame and you found out it was writers in Boston that didn't do it. Like, you immediately would say, oh, it's because the Patriots hate the Kansas City Chiefs. But Kansas City, we know that there's like a little beef there with them and the Patriots, whatever it is. They think they're a better organization, all those things. Once you said he's from Kansas City, you kind of knew what the situation is. And for you to come out and openly say, well, I voted for Roger Craig over Bill Belichick. Roger Craig's a great player. But I wouldn't even have told anybody I did that. And it's like, well, it's unfortunate they didn't get in on their previous tries or whatever, but this year I have to put Bill Belichick's name down on this piece of paper, and I'm not picking Greenwood or Roger Craig over Bill Belichick in any situation when it comes to Hall of Fame. That's just crazy. That's his explanation, but it's Kansas City guy, man, trying to stick it to the Patriots. That's all that was.
Maybe it was. Gregorian's been doing this for such a long time. I met him at previous Super Bowls. Very nice guy, very intelligent on football in general. So, yeah, maybe you could say there's some of that. I'm not 100% sure if that was the exact reasoning. He did say he voted for other Kansas City Chiefs players, and maybe that's not necessarily on him, but the fact that the Pro Football Hall of Fame, mind you, has
put them in a situation.
Them in the situation, and based on the fact that there are voters from every region. So there are voters in Arizona, New England, Kansas City, LA, like they're all in all these different markets, and their job is supposed to be the expert on these people who should be in the Hall of Fame and present cases when they're eligible to be voted in for the other voters to vote on that. So in a sense, like, yeah, anybody from the region, if a player gets voted in or if a player gets to the committee to be voted in, then of course they should be vying for that person because frankly, the committee put them in a situation where that's their job. So yeah, Vahe was in a situation where he almost had to vote for the Kansas City players because especially if he thought they should get in. But then the Hall of Fame adds on the senior list where you can only vote for so many guys, and it makes a situation where you end up with Bill Belichick not getting into the Hall of Fame. And that, to me, still doesn't make sense. But want to get some of you guys' reactions on this. 617-779-0985 is the phone number. We have Jim in New Jersey. Jimmy. Hello, Jimmy. What do you got for us?
So, this is for Cerrone. I hope you can help me out because intellectually, I agree. Bill Belichick should have gotten into the Hall of Fame. Emotionally, I've always struggled with him getting a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. 2, not starting Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl. And 3, when he came out with the comment when Brady slashed his hands, and he comes out and says, well, it's not open heart surgery. So part of me is almost glad he did it, and I'm on the fence. And Cerrone, I'd like to have your opinion on that.
Well, thanks for the call. I would say this. We can probably find instances or situations where bad decisions were made with every single head coach that's in the Hall of Fame, with every owner. His stood out because they were so good and they were always in big situations, and everything he did was under a microscope. There's a lot of guys that are in the Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame coaches, who were only great coaches for a short time and made a bunch of bad decisions and, kind of had a short window of success and moved on from players and made tough decisions and bad ones, said some crazy things in the media, whatever. We see it all over the place, but these guys get in, their first ballot Hall of Famers. So, yeah, Bill, he says some things and he sacked players in key situations. I'm pretty sure that stuff like that has happened up and down the NFL timeline, but he was just so polarizing at the time. And you got to remember, this is one key thing with Belichick. He's the most recent Hall of Fame level dominant head coach that was in his prime during the rise of social media. So a lot of his stuff is just thrown out there. It's nitpicked, it's pulled apart. This Patriot team kind of came up during social media, and that kind of attention on every little detail changed everything. If the 90s Cowboys were around during Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, half of them probably would be in jail, but we would look at them totally different. And now we see documentaries or podcasts, and we hear stories about guys doing shady things, making shady decisions, and living shady lives. But we didn't see that when they played, so we couldn't hold that against them. Whereas Belichick, every little thing he did was out in the open. And I think that's kind of it could be one of the reasons why they just didn't like him and didn't put him in.
Yeah, it's a great point, Cerrone. Really is a good point. And again, feels like good to get this off our chest, just talking about Belichick not getting in. But you already talked about some football?
Yes, sir.
Actually on the gridiron. So coming up, we got Super Bowl 60. We'll talk about Drake May, potentially right shoulder injury, how much that'll impact him. Coming up next on the Sunday Kickoff Show.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
Right now, buy 4 windows, get 4 free from Window Nation. Plus,
in his shoulder.
Is there any more concern for him, Mike, than you've shown so far?
I mean, again, we've had a lot of guys over the last month or 6 weeks here with the illness, and so again, trying to do what's best for the player and the team. Try to take care of guys. Don't spread anything, but again, we've worked through that here for the past 6 weeks.
Was he able to go through any throwing preps?
No, because he didn't practice.
Yesterday.
Oh, yeah, on a limited basis.
So he would have practiced today if not for the illness.
He would have been at practice today if not for the illness.
His shoulder injury, which is believed he suffered in the second half of the AFC Championship game against the Broncos. Drake May appeared on the injury report Wednesday and Thursday. He was limited in practice through Thursday, and then Friday did not go to practice due to a combination of the illness and the shoulder injury. And it feels like, Cerrone, that this is a major storyline brewing up for the Super Bowl, especially considering that Drake May, I know he was sick in the illness, but still, we're talking about the Patriots quarterback having an injured shoulder to his throwing shoulder. Does not sound like good news at all.
No, it doesn't. I think it depends on, which definition of hurt are you willing to use here? In that game, did he get hit and it hurt? Was he hurt after the play? Or is it a long-term hurt? It's going to be around for a while. It could be off-season surgery type of hurt. Or was it, man, I took a bad one on that one. And that happens. There's a lot of guys who are dinged up this late in the season or after big plays or big hits or big tackles, whatever. And this is just really the first time we've seen any, I wouldn't say lingering, any reporting of, what he could be dealing with. And I think he's going to be fine, be honest with you. I think they're giving him a break. They're giving him this time off. He is a young kid. But he really hasn't had time off and had time to relax all season. He's taken a lot of beatings over the last 3 weeks against the defense he's playing in the cold, playing the elements. All the things you see in the clip of him saying how hard it was. He's on the sidelines with McDaniels. He's going through it, even though they're winning games. And they gave the kid a break. Yeah, you got to put a reason up to why he's out. He's got an illness, or he's got a shoulder, whatever. And he's probably going to be in an injury report now for the next 4 years with a shoulder. But I think I'm going to look at it as a week before the Super Bowl and say, I think he'll be fine. I don't think it'll be any effects from it. He's a young guy. He'll heal up quick. Unless we're sitting here next Sunday or Saturday and he's still missing days of practice. He's still not throwing the ball in practice, and he's showing signs of him not being 100%. Then I think we really get concerned. But I think all in all, they're just resting him up, getting him to close to 100% as they can, and getting him prepared for this crazy week going into the Super Bowl.
Exactly. I think looking at the situation with Drake May, I haven't hit the panic button yet, but I've taken the glass cover, I've opened it a little bit, and I have my hand hovering right over the red button. If the Patriots get to San Francisco later today and they start practicing this week and Drake May is not throwing a football, that is when I'm going to start hitting that panic button and screaming that there's an issue here with Drake May and his shoulder. Because you missed Friday, okay, you're still more than a week out from the game itself. Once you start missing practices during the week leading up to a game, and I would say this for any point of the season, whether it's a regular season or the Super Bowl or playoffs, once you start missing days leading up to that point, that's when concerns start to come up about, okay, is this player going to be ready to perform? And some players are. We saw it with Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis earlier this postseason when they got into the concussion protocol, that they didn't practice, and that was granted for the protocol reasons, not necessarily because they were hurt, but same kind of idea. They didn't practice during the week, or they were limited in some capacity, came back, and they were ready to go for Sunday. Maybe that's what happens with Drake May, and everything is all set, and it's maybe a much ado about nothing. Who knows? But right now, I don't know how you can't look at this and have some kind of panic that Drake May might not be A, ready for the Super Bowl, or B, he'll be ready, but he's going to be limited in some way, and that's going to change the complexity of the offense that McDaniels and company has built up this regular season. We all seen the numbers from the regular season versus his last 3 postseason games. The drop-off is dramatic from what it's been. His completion percentage, I don't think a lot of people thought it was going to be around that 70% mark, which is what it was for most of the regular season, but it's down to 56%, and I know he's played in some tough weather conditions, especially in that second half in Denver, but for it to drop that bad to me seems like maybe there's a little bit more than just increase of competition, first postseason coming around for the young player. It just seems like there could be more here, and maybe the shoulder injury is the answer.
Yeah, it could be. I still putting it on the competition, because we're not seeing a string of throws where you're like, oh, that guy was open, he threw it high. Oh, that guy was wide open. He had a couple in the snow last week where you're like, oh, he could have made that throw. But then he comes out and hits Matt Collins over the shoulder from 30 yards out, off the flea flicker. And you're like, oh, well, there it is. But I think it's more on the competition and the elements involved. Against Houston, he still threw 3 touchdowns. And second half against the Chargers, he completed like 80% of his throws and had a perfect QB rating. But overall, he had a bad game. But the second half, he was good. Second half against the Texans, once they figured them out, once the protection held up, he was able to find guys and make big plays downfield. And against Denver, it was a flat-out blizzard in the second half. And it was more, to me, of guys not getting open and every pass being contested. And look, he's probably banged up. But I'm not hitting the panic button yet until, like you said, late in the week, if he's not practicing, not making throws and all those things, then you got a major concern coming up here. But I think he's just a kid that's just beat up from head to toe, be honest with you. I don't know if he's had lingering issues, but I think he's just he's beat down. You see him in the press conferences, he's got the bruises on his arms and all those things, and he's taking a beating. But I think you get him out on the football field, it's going to be 60, 70 degrees in California, the sun's shining. It's going to feel like Hawaii compared to what they've been dealing with. And you get him out there making throws, I'm pretty sure the accuracy would be there. But the only problem is now you're gonna have another all-pro cornerback and an elite defense you're gonna have to be facing again. But I don't expect him to be throwing, completing only 50% of his throws against Seattle come next weekend. I think he's gonna be good, unless, like I said, we see come Friday, Saturday, he's still dealing with stuff. Is going to be a problem.
Exactly. Once we get to Friday later on this week, if he's still dealing with the shoulder injury and it's still a discussion point and Vrabel has to answer for it, that to me is when you're going to start to really hit the panic button and get nervous about Drake May and his health moving forward to Super Bowl Sunday. But right now, so we heard Vrabel Thursday. He said he responded favorably after throwing, and that to me was also a promising sign that maybe this isn't as severe as it could be made out to be, is the fact that he was throwing. If it was a severe injury, he wouldn't have thrown. I know the media didn't witness that at practice, but based on Vrabel's comments, made it seem like Drake May was throwing at practice this week. So if the shoulder responded favorably and we're taking Vrabel at his face for his words, then yeah, that's great. Maybe it is really not that big of a deal, and it's just bumps and bruises. Because anybody at this point in the season, if you're playing in the Super Bowl, you got bumps and bruises, you're going to have something wrong, and you're going to be working through some things. So for me right now, just got to see how it develops, but I think this is a major story entering this week, and enough so that I'm starting to question, okay, when did this happen? Has it, it seems like everyone believes it happened in the AFC Championship game, but could have happened earlier than that. Has this been a lingering thing and it got worse in the AFC Championship game? We haven't received that kind of clarity yet. So to me, that would be something I would hope that we find out if it continues to get worse, about when did this exactly happen. Because I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, Cerrone, but if we find out that this happened in the Chargers game after what he did against Houston and then the Denver game, I would feel much more confident entering Super Bowl Sunday knowing that information than if it happened in the second half of the Denver game.
Yeah, I mean, the timeline changes it, and if it's something that did happen early in the playoffs and he's still dealing with it, then he might have more of a long-term issue than just something just bothering him off a bad hit. Got aggravated or whatever. Oh, if he did that in the Chargers game and still was able to throw 3 touchdowns against Houston, more power to him. But I have more confidence of him being 100% than I do Sam Darnold. He hasn't thrown the ball all week. He's still dealing with the oblique injury. He's still having pain when he throws the football. He had that good game against the Rams, the guy's still running wide open. But he's got an offensive lineman that hadn't practiced. His left tackle Cross hasn't been there. He hasn't practiced all week. Dealing with that oblique has been bothering him now for weeks. I have more confidence in Drake May being closer to 100% than I do Sam Darnold and some of his guys on his offensive line. So injuries will be the conversation this week for both sides and both teams, and seeing who's closer to being 100%. And you're going to get the gamesmanship and the chess match between the two head coaches about players and who's hurt, who's not. That's going to be the strategy all week. But I'm looking more at that Seahawks offense and seeing who's going to be ready to go and who's going to be healthier come Sunday.
Absolutely. And Patriots depart for San Francisco today for Super Bowl 60. If you're heading down to Gillette, they're doing a program setting to kind of a send-off, you could call it. So the Patriots, the bus will depart at 11:30 a.m., but gates are opening in about 5 minutes right now. They got entertainment. Dropkick Murphys will be performing, and we'll be carrying some of that coming up. And I see your phones calls lined up on that. We'll take them coming up next. And if you want to weigh in, 617-779-0985. We'll have more next on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff Show.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
Sharon, I don't know how you feel about this, but it felt like at the conclusion of the regular season, Stafford, the discussion was pretty much all Stafford. He was above May. Yeah. It was maybe a competition, you could say. He was definitely contending for it. But nonetheless, it did feel like that Stafford sealed the MVP case. And heading into the postseason, I feel like May's play perhaps hasn't lended well to the argument for him. But the fact that he got to the Super Bowl is certainly a trump card he has over Stafford.
Yeah, and the thing I would say about Stafford, even going back to the regular season, they finished their season with the 3-3 in their last 6 games, and Stafford throwing pick sixes in Atlanta and Carolina is the reason why that game was played in Seattle and not in L.A. They fell apart down the stretch of their season. They lost key games, bad moments against bad teams, and cost themselves a chance to possibly play in the Super Bowl. And I think for that alone, Stafford shouldn't even been in the conversation. He's got the numbers, but you can't be the third best team in your own division and be a 5 seed and say, well, I'm the best quarterback, I'm the best player. No, you were responsible for them losing major games down the stretch. You finished 3-3. If Drake May would have lost 3 of his last 6 games on the road, throwing a bunch of pick sixes, he wouldn't even have been in the conversation for All-Pro. But because he finished strong and played good football down the stretch, he got he got the credit he deserved. But I think Stafford was the reason this team, that Rams team, did not get the home games or secure a top seed in the conference. Again, you can't go on the road in Carolina and play bad football. You can't go on the road in Atlanta a day before, the week when they thought they were going to fire the head coach, they ended up firing, against a Carolina team that's basically tanking. I mean, an Atlanta team that's tanking, and you're out there throwing pick sixes, turning the football over, playing bad the last month of the season. Now, he went out there and ran it up on the last game to kind of help his numbers out, but I think Drake May should have been the MVP. And as far as the playoffs, again, you played bad football in Carolina in the playoffs, but you get a W out of that. You get one. You play decent in Chicago, and you get a win out of that, and then go out there and lose to Seattle, a team you faced 3 times, this season. But look, I think May deserved it because I think he did more with less.
Absolutely.
If Drake May was playing for the Rams, they'd be in the Super Bowl right now. If Matt Stafford was playing for the Patriots, they wouldn't even have made the playoffs, in my opinion.
I think you're 100% right about that. Drake May, if I had to vote, I would have voted for him. What he's done this season, the growth that he's shown has been tremendous. Not to take anything away from Stafford, because he's been great as this coming back with the Rams, and he won the Super Bowl in 21, and now is coming back and having this great, kind of late career season resurgence, you could say.
Yeah.
But the fact is that Drake May got his team into the position to get to the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford didn't. And I will say, I think if Drake May beat the Bills at home, that December 14th game, I think this conversation could have flipped on his head. And the fact that he lost that game potentially, I don't want to say it didn't play against him, but it didn't do him any favors, especially because he only had 155 yards, 14 of 23 and an interception. He didn't even throw a touchdown pass in the game. So if he could have played maybe a little bit better, and I know he had the rushing yards as well. He had 43 yards, 4 attempts, and 2 touchdowns. So nothing crazy, but if they would have won that game, it potentially could have been enough to say, listen, this guy's doing so much with nothing, and then just basically beat the team that has been holding the AFC East supreme. And I know he beat them in Buffalo, I get it, but that was such earlier on in the season, it was different. You do it at home, the chance and the implications to put the division away, that could have done so much for him, and it didn't happen for him. So
I would say, what I would add to that, I think in that Bills game, I mean, the thing we all forget, they scored 31 points and they had a 21-0 lead. I think that game was more on the defense, whereas Stafford in that game against Atlanta, I think he threw 3 interceptions and threw 2 pick sixes in that game. He personally cost them a W, whereas Drake May in that offense, they scored 31 points. They had a 21-point lead, and the defense kind of let it slip away. And you mentioned that Drake made the rushing touchdowns in that game. I think that part gets eliminated when the conversation between May and Stafford, when you look at May's ability and his numbers on the ground, to factor those into, his MVP case, because he was more all-around quarterback than Stafford, who's just, drop back pass or whatever. But I'm glad they're both all-pro. But I would have given it to Drake May, seeing what the supporting cast is and the expectations. The Rams were expected to be a Super Bowl contender, whereas the Patriots were We should be looking at the Senior Bowl now as opposed to the Super Bowl.
That's probably the better point. Is that it should be the Senior Bowl instead of the Super Bowl for the Patriots right now. Thank God we're not doing draft talk right now in February. But Charlie in the car, he's got a thought on Drake May's shoulder injury. Charlie, what do you got?
How's it going? I just wanted to say, I understand everybody's talking about the shoulder and everything, but if Drake May wins this game, and by the way, I'm at Gillette right now for the rally. If Drake May wins this game, he is immediately an all-time great. You look at guys like Mahomes. He won the MVP his second year. He won the Super Bowl, or he made it to the Super Bowl. If he won that year, everybody's going to say, oh, he's an all-time great. That's what I think. I think Drake May, immediate all-time great if he wins this game. Thank you.
Immediate all-time great if he wins this game. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to go that far. Would he be a good quarterback and a great story if he wins this game? Of course. You won a Super Bowl as a quarterback, a starting quarterback for a pro football team. Yes, you'd be good and you'd be in history. But immediate great means you're going right to the Hall of Fame, which, I mean, we all have our thoughts on that today. But I'm not going to sit here and say
as a Patriot with the standards now, he's got to win 5 more to get in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. But, so if we're going to sit here and say he's an immediate great, I'm not ready to say that's wrong.
But what I will say is this, though. The one thing that's kept a lot of above-average quarterbacks out of the Hall of Fame is they didn't win that one Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers would be in if he just got that Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? When he gets eligible, it'd be a lot easier. There's a lot of guys that were good that just didn't get the Super Bowl. And I think with Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes, because they won so many, we kind of changed the standard. Before it used to be if a quarterback can win a Super Bowl, he can get in and be considered a great Super Bowl quarterback and a Hall of Fame level quarterback. But because they won multiple Super Bowls, we're now raising the bar and saying what a Super Bowl quarterback should look like. A Hall of Fame QB should look like. But if Drake May does, he'd be couple Pro Bowls, he'd be an All-Pro MVP candidate, and have a Super Bowl in his resume. All he need now would be just a decent amount of stats over the next 10 years, and he could get in. That one Super Bowl used to make a difference, but I'm not sure if it does anymore. But back in the day, yeah, if you win one Super Bowl, you're in the Hall.
I think if Drake May wins one Super Bowl and has all the stats that he could, let's say stats get inflated, he has a great 10-year career, and he wins a Super Bowl, I think that would be a disappointment if you won it his second year and didn't get back there. Like, that would be the point where you're talking about, like, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers level, where if they were great quarterbacks but only got over the hump once, I wouldn't I would be disappointed if that was Drake May. Or if he loses, especially if he loses this game and they don't get back, I'd be even more disappointed. That to me is like, we're talking about all-time greats. You got to win at least 2 to be considered that.
Well, I would say this. Kurt Warner's in.
Yeah,
he had basically one great MVP season. He only made the Pro Bowl, I think, 3 times, and they put him in. First ballot, I believe. He went right in. So, I mean, it's happened before. I understand he was a quarterback of the greatest show on turf and all that stuff, but the easiest schedule in NFL at the time. But he got in. So I think like I said, I think they've changed the standard over the years. And before one Super Bowl would get you in. But I think if Kurt won it today, since he doesn't have the numbers, he's only been to 3 Pro Bowls, 1 Super Bowl, I don't think Kurt Warner would get in today as opposed to when he, the way it was when he got in, years ago.
Especially with all the guys who are on the list now. I mean, you got to choose who you vote for. But Mark in Medford, he's got a thought on Drake May possibly injuring his shoulder in the Houston game. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, believe me, I am no doctor, nor do I play one on TV or the radio for that matter. But if you go back and look at the Houston game, how many times did Drake May get hit in the arm in the act of throwing the football with those turnovers? When you're standing back there locked and loaded and ready to zip one downfield, and you think you got all this time in the world and you're ready to pass, boom, and your arm gets stopped halfway in the middle of throwing, very easily to tweak something in that shoulder.
Absolutely. I mean, they always say that with pitchers, too. It's a great point. With pitchers, if there's some kind of stoppage of play as they're in the windup, they say just throw the ball, because if you stop your shoulder before you throw the ball, you're going to potentially injure something. So it's a good point he brings up on that.
Yeah, it is a good point, and it happened several times in that game. I think we kind of overlooked it because of the pass to Booty late in the game, but he's so strong and he's a big dude. He's not really – it's a deep pass, but he's not really putting force into it. He kind of just lofts it down there. So you really can't tell if it bothered or affected him, or if it – because it was so cold, could he even feel it at that time, and did he wake up the next day like, man, my shoulder's killing me? It's a good point. He didn't take a lot of like big hits, but them ripping at the shoulder and pulling on his arm as he's throwing the ball. It did happen quite a few times over the last few weeks. So that's a good point by the caller. He could have been dealing with it. I think it happened to him a couple times in the Chargers game as well. So you could be onto something. That could be where we tweaked it. And we just hope and pray that 2 weeks off allows him to get some rest and get the pain or whatever he's dealing with out of his shoulder.
I think I'm all frozen up on my end, Garvin. Do you mind popping up Mike in Braintree on line 4? Mike, what do you got for us?
Good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Love the show.
Thanks. What do you got?
I'm not a big fan of artificial intelligence, but do you think if artificial intelligence was doing the voting for the Hall of Fame, Bill Belichick would have been in?
Not sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Google AI would have put him in.
No, you know what? I'm going to push back on that because Bill Belichick is famous for hating technology and smashing tablets and never being old school Luddite kind of guy. I think AI would pick up on that and go, no, you're not with us.
Yeah. And AI actually might factor in the cheating scandals and all that stuff. Like everything his name was mentioned in and be like, no. So, yeah, that's after the show, I'm going to try it a few times to see what happens, but just ask and see what comes up.
I just pulled up ChatGPT and asked the robot. The robot would have voted for him. So
there you go.
There's that. So
Skynet says he's a Hall of Famer, so he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, so let's just go off artificial intelligence for the rest of our lives about everything. An important decision that we can make. I'm glad there's still a voting committee. I'm glad we're not leaving this up to the robots. I'm out on the nerds. But we'll have more on Drake May and his shoulder injury, and I want to compare him to Sam Darnold because I think there's an interesting perspective there about having a guy having this early season success versus somebody who's come up through the ranks, journeyman quarterback, and working through some of that. So we'll have much more on Sam Darnold and Drake May coming up next on the 98.5 The Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff Show.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
The 99 Restaurants annual Have a Heart fundraiser is back to support the
and hit on the ground a lot. And, Cerrone, I got a question if the lights are going to be too bright for Cerrone with the Patriots coming back in Super Bowl 60 in the Bay. Oh, I think we might have dropped Cerrone here, but I don't know.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no. Okay,
no. I was going to say, I don't think the lights would be too bright. I think it'd be the jerseys of Milton Williams and Barmore that's going to be in his face more than the lights. With Sam Darnold, he's had this resurgence the last 2 years, and I went back and looked and kind of found a part of his resurgence was he's only played a top 5 defense one time in the last 2 full seasons.
Wow.
And that was the Houston Texans this year. One time. I think he's only played a top 10 defense 3 times in the last 2 years. He's played the bottom half of the league's worst defenses of the last 2 years, drastically more than he's played the top half. So a lot of that is, we get on the pages about the competition and the easy path and all that. The resurgence of Sam Darnold was, you give him the best receiver in football 2 years in a row. You can say Justin Jefferson and then Jigba. You put him in the dome and give him an easy schedule, a couple of great offensive coordinators, and he looks like, man, this guy, where did he come from? He's not seeing ghosts anymore. But then the few times he does play good defenses, the ghosts kind of show up. For example, this year, Minnesota was a top 10 defense. One of the 3 top 10 defenses he played. They won that game against Minnesota, but if you remember, Minnesota was down like the 3rd-string quarterback. The kid threw like 4 interceptions, a couple pick sixes. Sam Darnold in that game, I think, had like 120 yards passing. But they won because the defense scored more points or whatever. But he hasn't faced a ton of good defenses the last couple years to even know if he's still seeing ghosts. But you remember that playoff game last year against the Rams when they started getting to him, all of a sudden the ghost showed up in Minnesota. And
I almost forgot about it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Did you?
We'll see. With a banged up offensive line, and he's got his both tackles haven't practiced, I believe, all week. He's dealing with an oblique injury. We'll see if he's done with the ghost yet, or if what happens when Milton Williams and Barmore are in his face, or it takes him a little longer to find a Jigba because Gonzalez and Carlton Davis and Jones are kind of giving him fits. We'll see. We'll see if those ghosts turn up again this weekend because he's finally going to face a top 5 defense in a big spot.
Seeing ghosts.
I laughed when I heard that clip. Just that little laugh he has where he's just sitting there, just the reporter. Oh, I almost forgot about that one, and he's like, "No, you're good, man."
Yeah, I almost forgot about it.
Oh, did you?
Thanks.
You forgot about the picks and the ghosts.
You're good.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. Like that's the other thing too. Like, no, don't worry, man. I know you had to ask me that question. It's all good. I get it, man.
I can't believe you. To this day, I still can't believe ESPN aired that.
I can't. Okay,
it's bewildering.
So I actually forgot about how it actually transpired. I remember the quote. I remembered all of that, but I couldn't remember exactly how it came to the surface. So I was going back and researching it this week, and I saw it was in a mic'd up moment on Monday Night Football. They aired the thing.
Seeing ghosts.
Seeing ghosts. That's not good. And you already said they're going to keep bringing it. I would too.
Spoke McFarlane when they were doing commentary.
Yeah, it's like football. They aired that on the broadcast. It's not like he said that in a press conference where he was in a bad moment and just said, "I'm seeing ghosts." He said it in a private moment. And he got mic'd up on ESPN for it. Like, oh, that's terrible. That's awful. But such a hilarious quote. Again, I kind of forgot about that one. Did you? You really forgot about that? As you're in this mid-career resurgence, you forgot about the ghost and what happened that in 2019 against the Patriots? Come on.
I almost forgot about it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's one of the lowest points of his career. It's probably the lowest point of his career.
It could be the lowest point of his professional life in terms of it because everyone's dogging him. If you go back to his college career, he was a great quarterback at USC. He got into the Rose Bowl. They went to the Cotton Bowl the next year. They lost to Ohio State that year, but he was a good quarterback. And to come out of that and just have such a rough start in New York, which is more a testament to the Jets organization than it is to Sam Darnold. But still, you almost forgot about it? Come on, don't lie through your teeth like that. You don't know you didn't forget about it, man.
And one thing I would say, the fact that he could say he didn't forget about it. As good as the Seahawks are in their offenses, he still leads the league in turnovers. He's still turning over more than any other quarterback in football. He led the league in fumbles. He was third in the NFL in interceptions. He still turns the ball over. He still has moments where he sees ghosts. So don't say you forgot about it, or maybe the moment you might say you forgot about it. But the same issues that bothered him then still bother him today. But yet the Seahawks team is good enough to where they overcome it. They get the ball back. They keep teams to 3 points or whatever it may be. But he's still turning the ball over at an extremely high rate. And that's going to be a factor and going to be a possible issue for him come next Sunday.
Absolutely. And just going back at it, he's had 3 fumbles this season and 14 interceptions. 17 turnovers responsible for Sam Darnold this year. Like, that can't be underestimated. And that's why I say that when we talk about the pressure and who that's going to be on, it feels like it's on Sam Darnold, because Drake May, at least you can say, especially with him going with the shoulder injury, the narrative could potentially be if he loses this, well, he was banged up, he had a hurt shoulder, he's young, could get back there again. There's going to be a positive spin to this. If Sam Darnold loses and has interceptions and fumbles and turns the football over struggles in this game, you're going to be sitting here saying Sam Darnold's a quarterback that can maybe get you to the Super Bowl in an off year, but when he gets there, he can't handle the pressure, loses it, and that's it. And that's going to write off Sam Darnold for anybody in this league. So maybe the Seahawks that just paid the man. But outside of that, I don't know how you can sit here and say the pressure's all on all on Drake May and not on Sam Darnold. I really believe that Darnold has the most to prove in this situation, because for me, it's like if he crumbles here, it's almost make or break. It's your time to shine, or you go home with your ball.
Yeah, and it's at this point in his career, this could be this. I'm gonna say it could be it because he's under contract or whatever. But he's playing for more years to be added on his career. He wins a Super Bowl, it completely changes his legacy. It changes his wallet. There's a lot of things that's going to come with him winning the Super Bowl. But I tell you this: if the Patriots win, he is going to be, even if he plays a good game and the Patriots win, they were going to use him as the reason why the Patriots won.
Absolutely.
They're going to say, oh, look at they play Stidham and C.J. Stroud and Justin Herbert. They're going to throw Sam. They had to only beat Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. And that's unfortunate because they didn't do that with Pat Mahomes when he had to go through Marcus Mariota and Ryan Tannehill and Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? When he had that path, no one used the path against him. But you better believe if the Patriots beat Sam Darnold the next weekend, they are going to say, well, they won it. It was easy again. They only had to beat Sam Darnold. And completely leave out the fact that they were top 3 offense in football and just skip right over that. But they're going to blame Sam Darnold for this, even if they win, even if he has a good game.
And the other part of it, too, is it's going to be, even if he has a good game, if he doesn't have a good game too, or it's going to be the defense, right? And the defense stepped up today. It wasn't Drake May. The defense really
the defense won the game. Yeah.
Regardless of that, I think the only way Drake May you can avoid that situation is if May has some kind of late game heroic crazy pass to Stephon Diggs or Kayshon Boutte down the sideline. They look at it as like, oh my god, like that's the play from this Super Bowl. Like that. When you think about Super Bowl 60, you're going to say it was that catch or it was that scramble. And to me, that's the only way that you can avoid that situation. But the pressure's on Sam Darnold, and I think we all know that. And I hope that can be held even post-Super Bowl, regardless of the outcome.
Seeing ghosts.
Seeing ghosts.
I'd rather see a ghost than Milton Williams, quite frankly. Milton Williams is real. He can hurt me.
It's a big guy running down the A-gap when he's coming at you. I wouldn't want to be sitting in the pocket either. But Tony in Canada, he's been hanging out for quite a bit. Tony, appreciate it. What do you got on Sam Darnold?
Hey, guys, I agree with a lot of what was said. And actually, I got 2 things here real quick. But I got all excited when I, hot and bothered, and maybe not the right term, when I heard about Belichick and everything else. So 2 things from a different angle. Let me throw this into the conversation. I'm less worried about May's shoulder than Spillane's ankle, because I think the best way to pressure Darnold is to put all the pressure on him, and shut down Kenneth Walker, or at least try to limit him severely. Put the pressure on Darnold, put him in throwing situations, and let's see what happens, and dial up the blitz, and let's see how he responds. I'll let you guys discuss, and then one more thing in closing. I grew up watching Wayne Gretzky, Coffee, Curry, Grant Fuhr, And I remember when Gretzky retired in 1999, coincidentally, they waived the 3-year period, and they said that no other player would wear the number 99 again. That was classy. The Football Hall of Fame had the chance to do the bigger thing and just let Belichick in on the first ballot, but they didn't do that. So I think that really stained the Hall. So I'll listen to the rest of the show, guys. Go Pats.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate the call. I just will say, just on the Sam Darnold pressure point, it's probably the best way to get to him. Sam Darnold right now is 19th, 51.7 PFF grade for passing under pressure. So again, 19th in the NFL when it comes to pressuring, and that's among quarterbacks who have taken at least 20% of dropbacks this season. So you got to get after him. Pin your ears back, get after this guy, bring him to the ground, and even if Drake May in the offense can't perform to a high level, you're going to put yourself in a really good position to win this football game.
Yeah, I mean, and you bring up those numbers and the turnovers. I don't think he was even top 10 or 15 in pass attempts. I don't even think he threw it that much to get that many you know what I'm saying, to match the turnovers. He didn't drop it back. Like, for example, Bo Nix dropped back, I think, 117 times. I mean, 617 times, something like that.
He was 15th.
I think
15th, 477 passes.
Well, there you go. He's 15th in pass attempts. They like to run the ball, what they did when they had Charbonnet still. He didn't drop back a lot compared to some of these other guys, and yet he still led the league in interceptions. So again, you get, like you in the call just said, you get in his face, you get pressure on him, and you force him to be the man. Like, all right, you want to be the man? Throw it 45 times, and we dare you not to make 3 mistakes. That's basically it. Throw it 40 times and see if 3 of those don't go to a Patriot. And I think that's what they're going to try and do. And I don't know why so many are overlooking the Charbonnet injury. You know, Kenneth Walker's a good running back. He's a 1,000-yard guy, I believe. But Charbonnet, I think, is the one that had the 13 touchdowns or whatever it is. He's the short yardage guy. He's the red zone guy. And taking that away from a team that likes to run the ball, you're putting it all on Sam Darnold. But I think the Rams defense, they just wasn't good enough to make him pay for that. The Patriots, I think if you throw it 35, 40 times against that secondary, with Milton Williams and Barmore coming after you, and Chase Arms come out of nowhere, and Landry now, who's had 3-4 weeks of rest, you're going to be in for a long night if you're Sam Darnold and you're that Seahawks offense. I think they want to run the ball, but if they can, it's going to be a long afternoon for Sam Darnold.
The Zark Charbonnet point that you bring up is a great point because he had 12 rushing touchdowns this season, tied for 6th in the NFL. Tremendous back when it comes to getting into the end zone, and losing him, that's a rough spot to fill, especially this late into the season at the biggest stage. It didn't hurt them last game. Maybe it doesn't hurt them this game either, but still, you're losing a guy who scored 12 touchdowns. That's nothing to look away at and to think it's just not a big deal. That's someone that's going to be a big hole from the fill.
I'm sorry, quick second. Imagine if the Patriots lost Ramondre Stevenson and only had Henderson going into this game. What would we be saying about the Patriots offense? That's the same situation that the Seahawks are in, and it's kind of getting overlooked.
Yeah, you talk about if they're one-dimensional now. Can they not run the football? Because Henderson, we all know he struggled to get past maybe that initial line of scrimmage. And when he does, obviously, it's great. But sometimes you see him get those 1 or 2 yard losses, and it's a killer for him. But before we go to break, Jason's in Derry, New Hampshire on this very topic. Jason, what do you got?
What's up, guys? I think right now, like in a vacuum, like where they're at right now between the two quarterbacks, Darnold's been balling out. He's had a good postseason. People keep calling in and be like, he can't win the big game. He's in the Super Bowl. They were the number 1 seed. And like going into the next Sunday, I would actually take Darnold over May this second. May's had 3 of his worst games of the year in the playoffs. He's got an iffy shoulder, and I think
Darnold has an oblique injury. I know he's played through it, but he's not fully healthy either.
No, compared to how 3 of May's worst game in the playoffs, and then I think that interaction with McDaniels on the sideline, like it's tough out there. I think he's got like a crisis of confidence right now. It's usually not this tough for him, and I think there is pressure on May from the point like he needs to have a good game. Like he hasn't had a good game yet, and he's got to change it around.
I mean, I'll give you the point about he hasn't had a good game, and it's important to him to get one postseason game under his belt where you look at it and say, okay, you won the game because of Drake May. But all the reasons you brought up, isn't that more confidence to put into Drake May considering they're going to be in Santa Clara, it's going to be nice weather, you're out of the cold and the rain and the snow. Like, all those things, to me, if you're looking at this on
there's
a
no Hall of Fame edge rushers coming out.
Exactly. Like, everything that you're looking at with this, to me, would point in the direction that May would be the better quarterback in this situation and the guy who I'd want. Now, if he loses this game, that's going to be a major detriment to him with that consideration, but I don't know. I feel like this conditions of the game benefits the Patriots and Drake May more than it does Seattle and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, and I put this question up on Twitter a couple days ago. If Sam Darnold had to play against the Texans, Chargers, and the Broncos on the road or in snowy conditions, even in Seattle, does he win those games? And I think I don't think he does because he doesn't have the ability to scramble, all those other things, and seeing ghosts. Imagine the ghosts he would have been seeing if he had to play 3 straight top 5 defenses in inclement weather and see where he'd be. Yeah, it's like, well, look, he's in the Super Bowl. I get it. He just played 2 division rivals in the playoffs, one of them with their B team because everybody was hurting the Niners. And I only think in that game, he only threw for like 150 yards. He didn't have a big game. Last week, he had the one good game against the Rams. I give you that. But that's a defense he has now seen 3 times, and they could not cover Njigba at all. He was wide open in some of those games. They were even losing him in coverage, and he was just finding them left and right. But if Sam Darnold had to play the Texans in the snow, the Denver Broncos, who had the second most sacks since the 85 Bears, if he had to play those teams in those conditions, and Drake May had the luxury of playing the Niners and Rams in beautiful weather on the West Coast, I'm pretty sure the stats would look totally different for both guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great point that you bring up about that. I think the weather conditions are going to favor May, and if they don't, then you can really start to have this conversation. But until we see that, it's hard to sit here and say that. But you want to weigh in on anything we talked about so far? Belichick in the Hall of Fame, May versus Darnold, May shoulder injury, whatever you want. 617-779-0985 is the telephone number. I'll be right back with Cerrone Battle on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff show next.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
Anyone can join the fun at New England.
is, the Hall of Fame is supposed to be a meritocracy, not a popularity contest. And to me, it's clear that it's become a popularity contest. And, I'll give you a little story. Personal feelings aside, I was ready to move on from Bill Belichick after Super Bowl 52, after he benched Malcolm Butler. That being said, you can't take away what he's done in his career. He should have been a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer. But like I said, to me, it's a popularity contest. And just on the game regarding Drake May's right shoulder, I would not be surprised if you see McDaniels dial up something early where he tries to take a deep shot and just tell, and just kind of put Seattle on notice, saying, yeah, what do you think about my injured shoulder now? That's all I got, guys. I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks for the call, Pat. Appreciate it. I think when it comes to the offense right now, and with Drake May potentially his shoulder being an issue, I wouldn't be surprised if McDaniels decides to do a lot more design runs. The Texans, there was a report I read on ESPN, the Texans were surprised how athletic Drake May was and what he's able to do with his legs. And I feel like it was a great point that was brought up because I feel like we haven't seen that side of Drake May yet. He's really only been the pocket passer, and the legs have been the escape route. Okay, there's no one open downfield. Oh, there's a gap here. Let me run through it. We saw that a lot last week in the Denver game. I think this week, if there's any concern about his ability to throw the football, especially early on, and you want to maybe save that for the rest of the way, get some design runs in there and see how he does. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the conversation about Drake May running of not just this season, but last season, his rookie year, because he was a big runner in college. He was a dominant scrambling quarterback in college. It was all about keeping him healthy and getting a young guy. You don't want him getting hurt and ruin his career and all those things. I think you've seen it more lately because you're in there's no guarantees of next week. So I think now everything is on the table, and that's why he's been running so much. I think he has 150 yards rushing in the playoffs so far. I can easily see him against Seattle. If they play that man defense, I know they play a lot of zone, but when they do have those chances of man and everybody turns their back, this kid can have a huge day on the ground because there's no next week after that. There's no saving him or whatever. Everything's on the line. You can see, with John Elway with the helicopter hitting all that stuff. You can see Drake May going all out, I think, in this game. And because of that, I think he can have an explosive day on the ground. And it just adds another element to the defense to where now you're pulling guys away to either spy him or you're playing a certain coverage because you're worried about him running. It changes everything, and it opens it up now for the other guys on the field and for Mac Hollins and Stephon Diggs across the middle, different things like that. Yeah, it's May using his legs, I think, is going to be a huge weapon this week, injured shoulder or not. If he had a healthy shoulder, I still think his legs were going to be an important part of this game.
Absolutely. And Deshaun in Virginia, he's got some more on the Super Bowl offense. Deshaun?
Hello, guys. How you guys doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
What's going on, man?
Good. I just want to start by saying I want to sound like a party people or whatever, but when it comes to the backstep of Sam Darnold turning the ball over, potentially turning the ball over in this game, I don't think it's going to play a major role in this game because they have a much better team. To me, it's all about the defense right now. It's more about the offense potentially turning the ball over and putting the defense in bad spots. So that's what people are not really factoring in. I mean, if you think that the defense is going to be able to play another game like that, just try to win this game by themselves, people are fooling themselves. The offense needs to show up big time in order for them to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I think so, yeah.
I was going to say I agree with him that the offense has to show up in this game for the Patriots to win it. But at the same time, what is showing up? Define that. Is it just getting the touchdown when you need it, like we saw previously in the postseason, like maybe the Denver game, and then the defense holds the rest of the way? Or is it showing up in the sense that Drake May throws for 350 yards and 4 touchdown passes, and we're sitting there going, oh my God, look at Drake May in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, you got to, again, we're looking at this offense and saying the offense fell apart, whatever. They scored 28 points a game during the season. And I think they had 7 common opponents. Here's the thing with Seahawks, the difference between Seahawks and the Patriots. We say Seahawks played a tougher schedule. They're battle-tested. They're a proven team. The Patriots had it easy. The only difference between these two teams is the division opponent is the Rams. There was no other. The Patriots played the Bills twice or whatever, but there was no other team. The difference in their schedule was they played the Niners and they played the Rams. One of them I think they played was Mac Jones. They played, and then they played those teams again in the playoffs. But outside of that, Seattle's offense played the Saints. They played the Titans. They played the Buccaneers. They played the Steelers. They played the same teams and got most of the same results. They played Atlanta. They played Carolina. They played a lot of common opponents. They played Houston. They a lot of common opponents. So this we're saying the Seattle team is a much better team. That's why so many people pick it. They're just a better battle-tested team. Not really. They played the same teams outside of the Niners and Rams. That's the only difference. And the Rams, I just mentioned, they were a 500 team since November. They were an average team that struggled against Atlanta, that struggled against Carolina, that struggled against Seattle. They struggled against the Bears, who people were saying weren't really a great football team. The Seattle Seahawks are a good team, but against good opponents, they don't look the same. Like Sam Darnold, again, when he plays good defenses, he doesn't look the same. And on the flip side, this is probably maybe the second best offense they've played. And when the Seattle defense has played good offenses, they gave up 85 points to the Rams in 3 games. 85 points to that team. They've been lit up by good offenses. Tampa Bay went in there. Baker Mayfield, I think they scored 35 points or whatever against the Seahawks team. When they play good offenses, which the Patriots are, they don't look the same. Now, you take the weather out of it and all those things, I think this Patriots offense can get enough points to beat Seattle. They don't need 40, but I think they can get to 27 points, 28 points against this team. And Sam Darnold is going to make the mistake. It's all about can they capitalize on it. But I think they can score on the Seahawks team.
I agree with that, and I like your point about bringing it to a high 20s, right around their scoring game for the Patriots, because regardless of how well the Patriots offense plays, I don't see this game being a high scoring velocity game unless if we were seeing Drake May throw for, like I said, 350 and 4 touchdowns. Outside of that, I see it being a slow grind, defensive, grimy game, and you're kind of in the aftermath looking at it and saying, wow, that was kind of an ugly game, but man, what a defensive effort by both sides. And it's going to be a lot of running from Seattle. I can't emphasize that enough, where it's not going to be one of the Super Bowls where it's a shootout or it's going to be Sam Darnold and Drake May going back and forth. It's going to be reliant on which defense breaks. Can you bend and not break? That's going to be the key.
And you got to also factor what it is. A lot of people going by the most recent thing they saw. And that's what's it's a recency bias. We just saw Seattle play the Rams, and it was a shootout back in, oh my, look at these amazing offenses. No, that was just bad defense. There was guys running wide open all over the place in that game, and it was decided on a terrible muff punt, basically, because a guy couldn't return a punt. And that was a problem for the Rams all season. They had special teams issues, and it kind of showed up. And then we're going by the Patriots game on the flip against Denver. In the snow, you had 2 elite defenses playing in the snow and the wind, and we're saying, well, that's a bad offense. These 2 bad offenses. But look at these great football teams over here. No, that was bad defense. Beautiful weather, blown coverages all over the place. It was just bad defense. But when you look at the totality of both teams, common opponents, things like that, the Patriots line up well with this team. And yes, Njigba is amazing. But that's why you pay Gonzalez and Carlton Davis and Marcus Jones. If they take him away, what else can Seattle do? Are you relying on an old Cooper Kupp? Are you relying on Kenneth Walker? If you take that one guy away, what can they do? And if Njigba has 120 yards and a touchdown, they can still get blown out. The Patriots have multiple different guys that can beat you in different ways they can win this game. And I think these teams are way more even than I think the public wants to admit.
Absolutely. And I think looking at this too, this is why Christian Gonzalez is going to get paid this offseason for games like this, because we've seen him step up this postseason. Entering the playoffs, the discussion was how much will the Patriots, or maybe will they even choose not to pay him and let him walk or trade him, because their defense was set up in a way where they were playing a lot of zone coverage rather than man coverage, which benefits Christian Gonzalez's play. And we're sitting here now, I feel like, saying Christian Gonzalez should go nowhere. You need to pay this man and lock him up because he's a lockdown corner. And the pick last week in Denver, that was a great play. It's a terrible ball by Stidham, but Gonzalez made a play on it. We saw him in Houston make plays. He was great against the Chargers. And I know he hasn't had the wild stats in terms of the interceptions. That Denver pick was his first one of the season. But that to me doesn't matter, because partially why the interceptions are a lot lower than what you maybe would want for a corner who's at playing the level he's playing at and what the money he's going to command, is because teams don't want to throw to him because he's so good. So there are fewer opportunities to get those interceptions.
He's not being targeted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, Christian Gonzalez is a key person in this. And Randy and Province, he's got some more on the key matchups in the Super Bowl. Randy.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, I think when the Patriots are on defense, I mean, number one, you got the defensive line has got to exploit the interior of the offensive line on the Seattle, because they're kind of the weak point there. The tackles are good. Gray Zabel's been good, but when your best interior offensive lineman is a rookie who's he had a struggle at the start of the season. He's really been good since the center came back. He was his college teammate there, so I think there's like a lot of communication and stuff they're getting there. But I think also when the Patriots are on defense, I think that this might be a team that's really susceptible to the idea of kind of doubling the main receiver with Davis and help from either Hawkins or Woodson. Davis is like a real physical man press coverage corner, and JSN, that was kind of always can he be physical enough to play on the boundary? This season, he's played 80% of his snaps on the outside, as opposed to prior in his career when he'd been almost exclusively in the slot. Davis is a real physical corner. So you get up there, you press him on the line, bring in help over the top, and I think that you have a chance of being able to kind of at least limit JSN. And then on the other side of that, Gonzalez would basically completely shut out Kupp from the game. And if it's not Kupp, then maybe Shaheed. Shaheed's lined up a lot in the slot, so probably a lot of Marcus Jones. But then on the other side of the ball, offensively, I think they've really got to watch out for the pass rush, right? Seattle does not blitz a lot. You got to keep an eye on number 99, Leonard Williams. What they do is a lot of like stunts, and that's really been an issue for Jared Wilson and Will Campbell throughout this season, handling stunts and loops and those sorts of things. With Williams, you keep an eye on 99. The further to the outside he is, the more likely they are to stunt. Once you figure that out, you saw the Rams in the NFC Championship game figure that out early in the second quarter, and they barely got Stafford at all. They sacked him one time. I think it was DeMarcus Lawrence that got him. I think then you run a lot of like pin and pull concepts with a speedy run back to the right side. Derek Hall's probably the weakest point on their defensive line. He improved a lot this year, but in 2024, he was really bad against the run. So you run a lot to the right-hand side. And then one key matchup, I think, on offense.
Randy,
if you can
appreciate the call, but I just want to focus on that Williamson that you brought up, because to me, he's one of the key contributors when it comes to the Patriots. Is how does Milton Williams impact Sam Darnold? Because we sat here, Cerrone, for the last 45 minutes and said Sam Darnold's going to make some kind of error. There's going to be a turnover. There's going to be an interception of some kind. Milton Williams is going to play a role in that in some way. I don't know if it'll be a fumble, an interception, whatever it may be, but you're going to watch the replay and say, oh, that happened because Milton Williams came over and pressured him. Yeah. Exactly. I think Milton Williams is going under the radar for the Patriots for the Super Bowl run.
Yeah, he is, and he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be under the radar. He's dominant. And one thing going under the radar for sure, when Milton Williams and Gonzalez both play, they ain't lost. They're undefeated when they both on the field. They haven't lost a game when Milton Williams and Gonzalez have played together. I mean, it is what it is. They lost a game early in the season. There was no Gonzalez. Late in the season when they lost to Buffalo, they didn't have Milton Williams and Robert Spillane back there. I think they get a third down stop here or there against Buffalo if Milton Williams is out there and they hold that lead. But the interior of Seattle is where they're weak. And they're also, again, their left tackle Cross is out. He hasn't practiced all week with a foot injury. So if they're weak in the middle and their left tackle's hobbled, they're gonna have issues probably running the ball more than anything else. But the Patriots D line is on an incredible run, and they just been dominant. Denver. We thought Denver had the best offensive line in football going into last week. They were throwing everybody out of the club on that Denver D-line. And now they're coming in, and this is in the snow. And now you got a situation where you're playing a Seattle team who we think is a good D-line, but they got interior issues and injuries on the outside. I think with 2 weeks rest and 2 weeks to prepare for them, I think Milton Williams, a guy who was dominant in the Super Bowl last year, can taste it again. I think he's going to have himself a day. And as for the secondary, they've carried this team. Look at the turnovers. Carlton Davis has a couple interceptions. Marcus Jones has a pick six. Gonzalez has an interception. This is all in the last 3 weeks. And these are against quarterbacks. I know Stidham is not on that level, but we can't sit here and act like Justin Herbert's not a Pro Bowl quarterback. We can't act like C.J. Stroud is not a Pro Bowl level quarterback when he's at his best. Both of those guys are better than Sam Darnold. I don't care what anybody says. They made those guys look a hot mess. And if they can do that to them, they can absolutely do it to Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl with 2 weeks to prepare for him and a banged-up offensive line. Yeah, and in a dominant secondary, I honestly think the Patriots can get after Sam Darnold. Can they make the plays? We'll find out, but I think the opportunities are going to be there for this Patriots team to capitalize on Sam Darnold. And on the flip, I do think the Patriots can move the ball against this team because they moved the ball against every team they played this year, even throwing for 3 touchdowns against the Texas defense that was not letting anybody score, and they did so in the snow. I think they can score in Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely, Cerrone. It's a great point that you brought up there. And I see all the fans right now. I got Channel 4 pulled up in the studio, and Boston 25, they're doing a great job with live coverage of the event down there. We're going to be carrying that in about maybe 30 minutes or so whenever the players and I think maybe Robert Kraft or coaches, whoever's going to speak.
Matt Light was already out there doing a little
we'll carry whoever's
stuff.
we're going to talk to the fans. You guys will hear it here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. But if you want to weigh in on anything we talked about so far, 617-779-0985 is the telephone number. Call in. We'll take your calls. I'm Jake Seymour with Cerrone Battle on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff Show.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
tackles, Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, who get in the A-gap and shut down opponents and forces them to get to the perimeter on their runs. They have Ernest Jones and Drake Thomas, also guys at the second level who can help create some of that. And I think when you start looking at the pieces in that, especially in that front seven, there's a case to be made that the defense is really, really good. And if they win the Super Bowl, could be put in that conversation of some of the better defenses we've seen in recent years.
They're good, but I think if we're going to hold the schedule and the stuff against the Patriots, we got to do the same for the Seahawks.
Absolutely.
I think the Rams are the only good offense they faced all season. They played Jacksonville, but that's before the Jacoby Myers trade and before they took off. This was the bad Jacksonville offense at the time. But Jacksonville and I think the Rams are the only teams they played in the top 10 offensively, only good offense they played all season. And when they played the Rams, again, in the 3 games they played against them, scored 85 points. Baker Mayfield lit them up. I can't remember. I could be completely wrong. I don't remember anybody putting up 30, 40 points on the Legion of Boom. I don't remember anybody going up and down the field in multiple matchups against them. What Tom Brady did against them in the second half was unbelievable because no one else was able to do that. And this Rams team, they benefited from picking on bad opponents in average offenses. They're good, but I'd be terrified if that was Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and Wagner and all those guys. Man, I'd be terrified if Drake May was playing against that as opposed to what they have now. The guys are good now. The interior guys are really good, especially, and they have a good DB out there, but one good corner is not better than the series of all-pro secondary guys that Seahawks team had. I think they were so good and they were so locked in. They were basically telling you, this is what we're going to do, and you can't stop it. They were on another level, and the intimidation factor alone was unbelievable. That's an all-time defense. I don't see this team being on that level. Not from what I saw last week against the Rams. No way in the world I'd put them on that level.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, like I said, when I first read the headline, I was like, okay, let's calm down a little bit because we're talking about one of the greatest defenses of my lifetime. I've seen the Legion Boom. I thought was excellent when they did it. And to your point, when you bring up Super Bowl 49, that is incredible what Tom Brady was able to do, especially like you said in the second half against that team. And just reading from an ESPN article in August of this past season, the Seahawks had the 22nd hardest schedule in the NFL. They had a 474 win percentage for the opponent's combined record, and their schedule included 7 2024 playoff teams. The Patriots, meanwhile, they were 30th. Their opponents combined for a 429 win percentage, and their schedule included only 5 2024 playoff teams. So obviously... Yeah. Similar ball game. It feels like you get 2 fewer playoff teams, but the winning percentages are right there. We're talking a mere, few games going a different way, and that win percentage is right around the same. So
yeah, it's the division game.
Yes.
It's because they played the Niners and Rams multiple times. So that's what boosts their schedule ahead of the Patriots.
Absolutely, and when you're in a division with the Dolphins and the Jets, who seem like they just can't get out of their own way in the last 2 decades, you're going to have your strength of schedule always be near the bottom of the league because your division has been terrible. But to say that the Seahawks defense is limiting, I think in some cases, because I've seen people make the argument that the Seahawks defenses, they haven't played a lot of people, so therefore it's limiting. I don't think that's true because you can just be a byproduct of your schedule. And same thing with the Patriots, right? We can sit here and say that the Patriots have a terrible schedule and that's why they got to this point. The fact of the matter is they lined out and played football and they beat the teams that they played.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. They took advantage of it. And any good team, when you're coming off a bad season like you had consecutive 4-13 seasons. Any good team should take advantage of those scenarios of that schedule. And even that Texans game, I remember I was at that game and I wrote after the game. I had a column up on 985thesportshub.com that it was the first time in my eyes where I sat there and said, "Oh wow, the Patriots are really back." Because I think that easy schedule tampered down everyone's expectations and the way the team was being perceived was, yeah, they're good. They won 7 games, but who do they play? Yeah, they won 10 games, but who do they play? Oh, yeah, they just lost to Buffalo. I told you who they play. And that was something that stuck and resonated with a lot of people, including myself for that. But when you see Drake May go out and play through the snow and the Patriots play so well and CJ Stroud just lay an egg and you're sitting there saying, wait a minute, this is reminding me so much of what we saw for 20 years of Belichick.
Yep.
We saw the young quarterback come in. He struggled, couldn't get it going. And the Patriots took advantage of that. Brady would have a good game. Now we're seeing May have a good game in those situations. And maybe it wasn't the game that we saw from him in the regular season, but it was still a good game. He had the touchdown passes when he needed them, played well enough for the Patriots to win that game and move on with it. So we can hold the schedule against both these teams, but don't let it get in the way of the fact that these teams beat the teams that were around them, and they're the final two teams standing. And if that's a byproduct of having an easy schedule, then so be it, but don't punish them for it.
No, and you go through history, and there's a lot of great teams. Everybody's talked about on this station and others all year. There's a lot of great teams that had easy paths. Are you good enough to take advantage of it? Are you good enough to capitalize on it? I mentioned earlier, one of the Kansas City's, I think their first playoff run, it was Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota, and Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, that's a dream lineup for anybody. And they was still a struggle. They needed a miracle to beat Jimmy Garoppolo in that game. We've seen Tom Brady get the Super Bowls, and the guy waiting for him is Jake Delhomme. Like you didn't hold that against the Patriots. It's just Jake Delhomme. No, you respected the opponent that was on the other side. And Delhomme ended up having a good game. And I don't think he would have if they was able to cheat, like Willie McGinnis said. I don't think Delhomme would have lit it up like that. But they've played Nick Foles in Super Bowls. Eli Manning wasn't considered a reliable quarterback at the time when they played him, and he was a turnover machine, and he ends up playing a great game in the Super Bowl. But there's been a lot of great runs by teams that have gone through an easy schedule, an easy opponent, whatever. Are you in a situation where you can capitalize? And when you play a good team, are you good enough to match them on the field and come out with a W? And then your point to the Texans game is key. We said, man, that's Texas defense. They don't let anybody score. You know, C.J. Stroud was a good quarterback up until we started watching that game, and everybody say he wasn't that good. They made him look bad. They turned him over. They got in his face. They put pressure on Justin Herbert. They beat up on the Denver Broncos offensive line that was dominant and the D line that was dominant. And they made these good teams look bad. These were good football teams, and they capitalized on it. So you got to give these teams credit. Give Seattle credit for what they did to the Rams. The Rams gave them their best shot. They couldn't play defense down the stretch. And again, a muff punt is the difference between the Rams being home and Seattle being home. But you got to give both these teams credit for winning the games they're supposed to and then capitalizing in the big moments in the big games.
Absolutely. We got RJ in the Cape on Drake May still making plays. RJ, what do you got?
Hey, real quick, too. The Hall of Fame's a joke. You guys bring up Willie McGinnis. How about him being the biggest leader of the first 3 Super Bowls, being the all-time postseason sack leader? Like you said, Cerrone, I completely agree. If that's a blue blood team, he's absolutely in a guy like that. There's a few others too. Won't even get into. But on the Drake May stuff, I don't look at these games like everyone else. I actually look at, how about the tight window big throw he made to close out the Chargers game? How about the 3 touchdowns he threw against Houston? You know, the offensive line didn't play well. If he had a great offensive line, the Houston game would have been a fantastic game for him. And then what was the key to beating Denver? Don't turn the ball over. We've turned the ball over the first 2 games. Don't turn the ball over, we'll win. He didn't turn the ball over. We won. That's a mature quarterback. I like seeing that out of our guy. Josh Allen went there and had 4 turnovers. The superstar Josh Allen had 4 turnovers. So, you know, say what you want about him. And that being said, I actually liked Denver last week. I didn't think we were going to beat them. I thought that they had every matchup over us and that they were actually going to pull that game out. I'm glad I was wrong. We won. That being said, going into the Seattle game, I love us in this matchup. I think that we have the edge coaching-wise to prepare. I think that Mike Vrabel's the best in-game small details coach in the league. Will have the advantage there. And the key to the game will be Christian Barmore and Milton Williams on their weak interior line. We're going to dominate them there. I think Sam Darnold's got a pumpkin game in him left. Drake May is going to protect the ball, and we're going to win 24-10.
Absolutely, RJ. I agree. I think Sam Darnold does have that, I guess, pumpkin game, if you want to call it that, or that ghost. I mean, I know he almost forgot about it, so, you know, maybe it's not really at the forefront of his memory, but Sam Darnold, if I had to put my money on it, I'm not a betting guy. I don't like to bet. But if anyone out there sports bets, I'd bet the over on his interceptions, at least for one. There's no way that guy does not leave that game without an interception. I can see it.
I think one thing we kind of overlooked, and we shouldn't have, shame on us, the Patriots, one advantage I think they have, late in the games against the Texans, the Chargers, and Denver, they were able to run the ball and get out of there. They were able to just put the games on ice. They didn't score touchdowns in the end of those games, but they ran the ball and wore Houston and Denver out late in those games. They had 140 yards rushing against a Denver D-line that was the best in football. They were dominant on the edges. They were dominant in the interior. Will Campbell held up in that game. They were moving bodies late in that game. Ramondre Stevenson running the football. They were able to gash them on the ground. Something we didn't think they were capable of doing against those teams. And I think going into this week, if they're able to run the ball the way they did against some of these teams late in the game, I think that puts Seattle in a tough spot. I think Will Campbell had a great game last week against a Pro Bowl edge rusher who still thinks, the better team didn't win. It's like, dude, you can't have zeros across the board and say the better team didn't win. You were completely shut out of that game. He had that one pressure on May, but he kind of hit him late. But if they can move Seattle's D-line, that changes everything. And I think a lot of people are looking for Drake May to have the 300-yard game and all that stuff. Remember, he wasn't doing that all season. They were winning. If Drake May is sitting around 250 and yet they're running the ball, they got 120, 130 yards on the ground, Seattle is in major trouble if they're a balanced team. If Drake May has 300 plus, to me that says he has to play catch up. He's playing from behind. He's throwing a lot. But if he has sitting around 200, 250, and Stevenson and Henderson are getting that 4 or 5 yards of carry, Seattle's going to be in a tough spot. And I think they're going to have the ability to run the ball, especially on the outside against the Seahawks team.
Yeah, and it looks like right now, Cerrone, we have some the program is about to start maybe at Gillette Stadium. They got the Dropkick Murphys performing. We've seen all the fans there. And I got to say, if you're out there at this rally today, you are a true fan. It is 12 degrees though right now. I see people wearing scarves, mittens, hats. You got to be a true fan, and I'm sure some people are driving down there right now.
There are people out there without shirts on.
Yes.
I've seen at least two adult men with no shirts on.
Probably heavily intoxicated as well. But if you're down there driving in, you want to call in 617-779-0985. We'll take more of you guys' phone calls coming up next on the Sunday Kickoff Show.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
Head to the bar.
and say that he can always come back. He can always come back because some players, Joe Burrow, hasn't been back yet. So, sure, that's a possibility. But I will tell you this: do you feel more likely about Drake May or Sam Darnold getting back? Drake May by a mile. I think. Yeah. Right. So it's got to be Sam Darnold the pressure's on.
Yeah, he's playing for his career. This is it for him. He's playing for right. He's an older guy. He's playing for his legacy. He's playing for his career. Drake May has many years left and many moments on that, to get back another crack at it, whatever, and all these other things. Sam Darnold, if he goes out and plays bad, this dude could be on another team in 2 years, and he's been bouncing around the league. He doesn't want to get the pressure of being stable. I think is on Sam Darnold. I just need a stable situation where I could be QB1 for more than a season. And all those pressures are on him. And Drake May, like to your point, he's going to have we know he's the face of the franchise. Sam Darnold is playing for the chance to be even considered the face of the Seahawks franchise.
He's playing for his career to not be remembered as another regular backup quarterback who got a shot, played well for a stretch, had postseason success, and granted he's had more than most quarterbacks will have in their career. Getting the Super Bowl is a tremendous achievement, but he could go down if he loses this game and the career doesn't continue as just a regular veteran journeyman quarterback who just stuck around in the NFL, got his payday, which good for him, by the way, like get your money, but that's what he's playing for. It's not just playing for this one particular game, it's your legacy. And Chris in Harvard, he's got a question about Drake May for Cerrone.
I got 3 quick points, okay? I'm going to go run through them real quick. First off, I know you're trying to prove a point, Cerrone, if May was on the Rams and Stafford was on the Patriots. The Patriots, if Stafford was the quarterback, they're making the playoffs with the easy schedule of the East. Bottom line, okay? So I know you're trying to make your point, but you went over bounds on that, okay? Now, the second thing, do you guys remember the last play of the first half against the Texans in the playoffs? That was not just a Hail Mary. That was a hail, hail, hail to the king. And he went ahead and he strained that arm. He threw that ball probably about 70 yards up in the air, about 65 yards, okay? So that's where he strained his arm, all right? Now let's get to Walker. Cerrone, you're missing a big point here. You can't see Walker in the backfield, and he's a cutback runner. And we play Palm's technique where our corners against Denver played because they were worried about the flat. You know why we're worried about the flat so much with our corners? So we can't play man? Because our linebackers are slow. Our linebackers are real slow, and we're going to overcompensate, and he's going to cut back. Have a great Sunday, fellas.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the call. Cerrone, I guess you had a lot of...
Yeah, I got a couple of things. As far as the run game, I've saw them shut down Breece Hall. I've seen them shut down Bijan Robinson, who I think is the best running back in football. I think I've seen them shut down good running backs all season. I've seen them do it. Teams that run the ball, I've seen them not be able to run the ball. We saw them against Buffalo earlier in the season. The best running team in football. They won that game. They stopped them defensively. They kind of play week to week when it comes to that. Kenneth Walker, I wouldn't even put him high on the list. He's a good running back. I didn't say he wasn't good, but now he has to carry the load because Charbonnet is not there to split the carries. If they ran a 2-headed monster all season, and now it's just one guy, that drops them down a notch. Can he get 100 yards? He probably could. I haven't seen anybody do it with Milton Williams on the field, but he might be the one guy that could do it. I'd give him credit for that. As far as Drake May and Matthew Stafford, yeah, Devontae Adams was hurt the second half of the season. Mostly, he was in and out. Did you realize that's when the Rams all of a sudden became a 500 football team? They all of a sudden, when they didn't have a Hall of Famer on the left and a Hall of Famer on the right, they didn't look too hot. All of a sudden, when the guys were banged up, when he didn't have the talent around him, he didn't look like an MVP quarterback. All of a sudden, the interceptions were there. He had a running back. We don't even talk about it. The running back for the Rams, the kid had like 1,200 total yards. They have elite receivers. One of them led the league in touchdowns and didn't even play most of the games in the second half. Then you got Puka Nacua on the other side. And they still struggled down the stretch against bad football teams. And Matthew Stafford struggled turning the ball over a lot in his last 6 games, the same games Devontae Adams was hurt or he either didn't play in. You're telling me when you take one of those guys away, he doesn't look too hot. but he would have been an MVP candidate in the playoffs if he was throwing to Mac Hollins? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And on the flip side, if Drake May had Sean McVay, if Drake May had that running back, if Drake May had that offensive line, if Drake May had Puka Nacua, if Drake May had Devontae Adams, all those things playing in the dome, that kid would have lit it up. The numbers he would put up, and not just Drake May. If you put Josh Allen out there, he would be an MVP. If you put Pat Mahomes with that, oh my God, Lamar Jackson with what they got in LA, they all would have been MVP candidates. If you would have gave them the Patriots receiving group, who I don't have it in front of me, even with Stephon Diggs, I think they were ranked like 25th, the 25th best receiving group in the league. Drake May elevated those guys to a status so we think they're all great. But if he didn't have to elevate Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and Sean McVay being the play caller with a great offensive line in a dome, oh my God, the numbers would be off the charts. We saw Matt Stafford play in the rain, and he couldn't beat the Carolina Panthers. The same team you beat by 40. He struggled against the Panthers twice. Twice he struggled against this Panthers team. But you trying to tell me if you dropped his roster down that he'd be MVP candidate? Come on, man. That's a huge reach on that one. And saying Drake May would be good, if right now in the offseason, the Patriots went out and got Puka Nacua, would they be better today or would they be better with Puka Nacua? You know the answer to that. So let's not play those games. Say it again, I'm sorry?
They hate us because they ain't a Cerrone. Come on.
It's ridiculous. I understand they're in the Super Bowl. They got good coaching and all those things. Talent still plays a major role in success in this league. And if you surround yourself with not just good talent, both of those receivers in LA are probably going to the Hall of Fame. Well, if the voting was normal, but they'd probably be in the Hall of Fame. And McVay is a Hall of Fame head coach and a Hall of Fame offensive play caller. And not taking nothing from McDaniels at all. Or nothing from Vrabel at all. But go on, I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you, man. I think everything you're going with this is exactly right. Is the fact that all these things correlate with one another. How can you just say that if Stafford and May switch sides, that May wouldn't have the same success? Like, you're 100% right about that. And I don't understand what you missed when he said in real time. I was like, yep, I followed. That makes sense. I'm with you on that, Cerrone, and I guess the call
it's. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Patriots staff or the team saying, oh, you wouldn't make the. There's a lot of games they've played this year to where you look at and say, no, Stafford's not going to make that play because he can't run. Have Drake May's ability to get away from not a bad offensive line that's been bad at times is a huge part to why they're winning games. His legs, his ability to make the plays against Buffalo where he's rolling right. The deep one to Diggs, the one where he shoves off the lineman to make the play. Stafford isn't making either one of those plays, and that's an L in Buffalo. That's one game right there. You can go through multiple games to where they won because of Drake May's ability to move in the pocket and get outside the pocket and make the athletic play to a not elite receiving group to where Stafford, you look and say he's not making that play. He might not get sacked, but he's going to throw it out of bounds and punt the ball away. And I don't think that would equal dominant success with this Patriots team with the group of guys that they have on their roster.
Yeah, absolutely, Cerrone. It's sound point that you brought up. I agree with it. We're going to take a quick break here, though. When we come back, we're going to have live coverage for the Patriots send-off down in Foxborough.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
This is Sean Grady, voice of the Celtics. Tune in.
Supposed to be Terrell Williams this season. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer in September. And just reading from the Boston Herald, Andrew Callahan had it Friday night, that Williams is now cancer-free. So he has not been able to travel to a road game all season, but he will be flying to San Francisco for the Super Bowl. So just wanted to share that, make sure everyone heard that. Thought it was a nice story to hear as the Patriots are getting ready to head to San Francisco later today.
Yeah, I mean it's a great story, and I think it's the team's biggest win of the season. It's incredible to you hear this news and to see where it's at now, and he's able to travel with the team and get out there and just be around his teammates and be around his coaching staff. Excuse me, his coaching guys, and be around the rest of the players on the team. And those are all bonuses, not just for the team, but for him, his morale, his family, and all those things. And just being able to be out there and celebrate not just football, but celebrate life, I think is going to be, it's a cool thing for him and his family. And on the football side of it, that's another mind that's going to be there. That's another guy who's been around for a long time that's going to just be dropping knowledge to a lot of these guys and just getting in there, getting them prepared for this game. And I don't know what capacity he's going to be around the team like that, but I'm pretty sure when they're sitting around the hotel lobby or just sitting around at dinner or whatever, the conversations are going to come up, and just having another veteran guy out there, a guy that's been around, just dropping knowledge can only help this team going forward.
Absolutely, and this Patriots coaching staff as a whole has been really experienced. We've seen, obviously, Mike Vrabel was a former head coach at Tennessee, Josh McDaniels, Doug Marrone. There's a lot of guys on this team who have prior experience as a head coach. I know you had a thought on that. I just want to say that I think a lot of it is a testament to, and I was actually talking to Joe that was coming back from the game against Houston, was what if a lot of these guys, not only they have prior head coaching experience, but specifically Vrabel and McDaniels, what if they're all kind of doing things that are just similar to what Belichick did throughout the years? Obviously, McDaniels is in the same position he was with Belichick. Vrabel's in a completely new spot. But they were both exposed to the ideas and the philosophy of what Belichick instilled throughout those last 20 years of the dynasty. And it really kind of came at the precipice when that Houston game, you felt like it was the first time that this Patriots team was back to what they were pre-COVID with Tom Brady in that era. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on that, but it just feels like that there's a lot of similarities that feels like it's not a stretch to even go that far and say that there are similarities between what this coaching staff is doing compared to what it was at the outset of the dynasty early on.
Well, yeah, it's very, very similar. I mean, when you had Cornell and Charlie Weiss and a lot of those guys, and even down to the, offensive line coaches, the running backs coaches, they had a lot of veteran guys who've seen a lot of football. And I think one thing Bill did back then that a lot of people kind of got on him a little bit more later on was he kind of trusted those guys to do those things. Like you said, they kind of was a unit. They worked together. I'm going to trust you to do this part of coaching. I'm going to trust you to handle that. And it was like a big collective effort in getting this team right and getting them prepared. Whereas later on at the end of Belichick's time in New England, it seemed like he was running everything. And it kind of stretched him thin where he couldn't really focus on one thing at a time. Even in the GM situation, back then you had Scott Pioli and all those other guys. You had a lot of guys around doing different jobs, and it all came together for them to win. And I think now they're trusting, okay, I'm going to trust Doug Marrone to do his job. I'm going to trust McDaniels. I'm going to trust, okay, we're losing Williams. We got another guy to step up. And the defense has been good from the beginning. And they're all on the same page, and they're all working together. And I think that the vet experience, these guys being together like this, I think it's a huge advantage over Seattle because they have a lot of guys just behind the scenes that have been through so much of this and can game plan for a single day. You got like I said, the Doug Marones and McDaniels, you're giving them 2 weeks to prepare for one game. You just need to win this one game. I think that's a huge advantage over Seattle, who has a fairly, young staff who's new to this situation and a roster with guys that don't have a lot of playoff experience. So I think it's a huge advantage when it comes to the Patriots.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're going to head it down to Foxborough right now. We're going to pick up live coverage from the Patriots send-off rally. I'm in Jake Seymour Cerrone Battle on the Sunday Kickoff show on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
It's good to be back, right?
This is awesome. Playing your songs out.
Thank you so much. for your support all year long, throughout all the years, and coming out on a day like this especially. You're the best. Thank you.
It's been sick. Got up this morning, put on the news. You people are in line. We had no clue what this is going to be from 8 years ago. But man, we are back, and it's good to be back in the Super Bowl.
Hey, it's only 12 degrees. Feels like -4. You guys are awesome for being out here today in this weather, in this temperature. And you know, so we go back to 01, right? Second-year quarterback plays a snow playoff game to get to and win his first Super Bowl. Little similarity here.
Yeah, hey, it's been fun watching this team all year. Bob and I, we've been doing the broadcast for a while now. What, 14 years? Going into our 5th Super Bowl. And to watch Drake and his team come together week to week and to see it start, I think it was the night game in Buffalo where he outdueled Josh Allen. And then we went on that great run. And man, was it fun beating Denver last week in Denver in the snow.
So you've been watching this team all year, both you guys. What surprised you most about this Patriots team this year in a season full of surprises?
That they've been in every game and pretty much dominated every game. They've never really been out of a game. You go through a season, you'll let go of the rope and you'll lose a big one. They haven't done that, but Mike Vrabel's intensity and dealing with him on TV, on radio, it's insane each and every week. It's like these fans, they're nuts. He's nuts. It's a good way.
Yeah, I think along those lines, this team lost 3 games, and you look back on those games, and they could have very easily won all 3. And the other thing that stands out to me, Mike, we know about the stars, Drake May. Well, Milton Williams has lent to this team on the defensive line, Stephon Diggs, Christian Gonzalez. But for me, it's all the guys who've shown the resilience stepping in. Last week, for example, in Denver, Robert Spillane goes down, Jack Gibbons steps in, and a guy like that plays critical minutes. Christian Ellis, those guys defensively. The season we've had from Marcus Jones, I think one of the most dynamic players in the league, going 2 ways. And we know he can go 3 ways if they have to as a great player for the Patriots. We've seen him do it on offense, special teams, and defense in his career. This is a fun team, exciting team.
And it's been amazing to see this team grow. And Zoe, talk about what it's like when you have a great culture, because it seems like Coach Vrabel has quickly been able to build a great culture in the locker room.
It's a completely different culture from what we were used to for 20 years. You see, they're wearing all white next Sunday. I love it. Road Warriors. They rally on the road together. They're a fun group to be around. So you watch them have fun and be successful. You can do 2 things at the same time and get work done. And everybody's going to be picking you-know-who this week. They picked the Texans. They're going to pick Denver out. Denver with a backup. Just let the chips fall where they may. This team will be ready to go on Sunday. And that damn defense will be ready to go.
Yeah, easy path, right? Easy path. Playing 3 top 5 defenses. Unbelievable run. Unbelievable.
But Zoe, talk about it. 9 wins on the road for an NFL team. Never happened before.
It's hard to win one game on the road. I mean, you go against some of these teams. It's crazy environments. Remember being in Tampa. The games change. You adapt to weather. It's just been a fun ride. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. 8 years ago, we stood up here on this stage. Never known if you ever get back. But damn, are we back, and it's good. It's a good feeling.
Hey, and you know what happens when the Patriots reach Super Bowls? Coaches in the AFC East get fired. Mike Vrabel, now the longest tenured coach in the division. Unbelievable.
Now, it's been an amazing ride. This is a fun team to broadcast, tell their stories, a lot of great stories in that locker room, on that field. Every game is a story. We're going to do our best to tell the story that does justice to you and to them in Super Bowl 60. Looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Hey, Bob, sorry, Bob. 5th Super Bowl you're calling. Do you have a favorite?
Brian, they're all my favorite, with one exception. And you know which one that is. We've called 4, Zoe and I together, 3 championships for the Patriots, and each one has gotten even more exciting, and I'm more grateful for every opportunity, especially this one. But you think about it. The greatest comeback in Super Bowl history, Super Bowl 49 against the Seahawks. How do you top it? You come back from 28-3 in Super Bowl 51 a couple of years later and rally against the Falcons. And then you beat a high-powered Rams team, holding them to only a field goal and winning that game for another title.
Last one, guys. What's the key? Go out there, beat the Seahawks, and win a 7th Super Bowl.
Relax. Don't let the game become bigger than you. This is the most impressive thing about this team. They're the same damn team every week. They've kept the same schedule, same preparation. I'm just excited for them, man. I can't wait to see them in this moment. It's going to be fantastic next Sunday in Santa Clara.
Well, the good thing, guys, I don't have to worry about the key to the game. It's in good hands with Mike Vrabel, Drake May, that coaching staff, and those players. Looking forward to it.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming up.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, so if you were drinking a Bud Light right now, it would probably freeze. So why don't you stay out here and we got a little
Bud Lights are frozen. Let's go.
Shout out to this squad right here.
Yeah, let's hear it for Mike Dussault, Brian Morey, Bob Sosi, and Scott Zolak. Thank you, Sarge.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Listen.
Thanks, Sarge.
We
Thank
want
you,
to
guys.
give a
Thank you,
huge
everybody.
thanks to our friends at Bud Light for being a part of this incredible event where you have a chance to win kegs of beer or even the ultimate Super Bowl experience. And hopefully you've seen the Super Bowl commercial where the real stars are the Bud Light keg. And folks, they'll prove to do anything for Bud Light. Take a look over here. You see in the corner, 500 kegs of Bud Light beer making their way into Gillette Stadium. That's pretty good.
Unbelievable. And folks, today it's your turn. All you have to do is show that you'll do anything for the clean, crisp taste of Bud Light and the Patriots. And honestly, you've already proven that just by showing up today. So give yourselves a round of applause.
All right, we're back here live in studio in Waltham at the 98.5 Sports Hub Studios. You heard Bob Sosi, Scott Zolak down there at Foxborough at Gillette Stadium. We're going to take a break here. We'll come back. Kendra Middleton and Matt McCarthy will have you guys later on today. So that's been it for Sunday Kickoff. Alex Barth will be back next week. Thanks for listening to myself, Jake Seymour, Cerrone Battle.
Boston's home for sports, 98.5.